exclusively. Hey, what's up? What's up, you guys? Johnny Beane here. Exclusively Van Halen, the online show and podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're on Spotify. So if you like your Van Halen, this is the place you want to be. Right here. So smash that subscribe. Next goal, 13K YouTube subscribers. Thank you so much. So let's talk about some Van Halen, you guys. What do you think? Does it sound good? All right. Here it is.
Hey, this is Michael Anthony right here, and you are watching exclusively Van Halen on the Johnny Beane TV. Keep it there. Woo! See ya!
Yo, hey, what's up, you guys? Johnny Beane here, exclusively Van Halen, the Van Halen show. Here we are. Mr. Mike, 5150. What's going on, man?
Word up. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Nice background, by the way.
I was telling Johnny I just painted my walls. You guys like it? Oh, no. The walls are falling down.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Cool. So, yeah, you guys, if you like your Van Halen, this is definitely the place you want to be. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, tell all your friends, and hang out with us for a little bit. We've got some cool stuff to talk about. But first, let's make this a real show. Let's say hello to the top tier of channel members here on the Johnny Beane YouTube station. Channel membership, it's a great way to help support the channel and support these shows. And the top tier are the executive producers. They are currently Music Therapy Laz, Majestic PB and J Cat, Woody Be Real, Flipper Carlin, CC, Bay Area Rich, Sherman Callahan, Nova 9, R Habs, Warlag, and Janice Lala.
Woo, Janice.
Janice, I see you in the chat because your name is in green. And also, by the way, Janice, thank you so much for letting me know. You know, I've been on YouTube here we're going on 20 years. It's pretty crazy, right? She dropped a comment on a video from 15 years ago saying that it just popped up in her feed. And it was me, like, in the studio in Oakland, like, actually recording guitar tracks and stuff.
Back in another life.
Yeah. Back when I had hair. Actually, not really. I look the same as this, actually. I didn't look much different.
It doesn't matter if you're wearing a hat. No one will ever know if you had hair or not.
Yeah, I know. But it's cool, though. You know, having a channel for 19 years, 20 years, whatever. And there's just so much content here. It's crazy. I mean, there's videos with you on here from... 11 years ago?
Yeah, it's a while back.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's say hello to some people here, and then we've got a pretty big article that we are going to cover. So brought in Mr. Mike because he
gonna need some backup on this.
Better reading skills than I do.
Hey, Ron.
So what's up, Ron? Ron, channel member, good to see you, man. Rock Daddy, good to see you. Janice, again, when are we going to do that unboxing? We can do that soon. I think Janice got a guitar she wants to unbox.
Oh, she needs to unbox it on camera, huh? On stream.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What about later tonight, Janice, on Twitch? You want to do that? You know, I'm over on Twitch every night. Video gaming, doing I don't know, guitar.
Did you clear off your hard drive so we could play some Call of Duty? Still working on that project there?
Still working on that.
All right. What's
Justin,
up, Rock
what's
Daddy?
up? What's up? Oh, he likes your background.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Dustin.
Very cool. Scott, channel member, MPN. Good to see you, dude. Let's see.
This is actually, this background I always like because it looks like it's on wood grain or something, like right in here.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was an excellent, and the little vignetting on the sides, I always thought that was super cool. So I picked that one for my background today.
Yeah, that's nice, man. Look at that, man. That's very good.
It's got a texture to it. If you just look up Van Halen stripes, do a Google image search. It's one of the like top 5 ones or something like that.
Oh, cool. Peggy. Good to see you, Peggy. Okay. So, yeah, we should probably get into it because
We'll dive in.
This is a lot of stuff here. So, Ultimate Classic Rock has an article they wrote up. Van Halen Set List Evolution, 1978 to 2015.
With a few years off in between there somewhere.
There's so many awesome tours, and these days with the internet, it's pretty cool that there's a lot of this stuff that's leaking video wise, audio wise, stuff that we never saw.
Yeah.
You know.
It's almost like it's getting easier for them to digitize it, upload it, store it, and maybe that just the advent of, the internet technology becoming more accessible and more accessible every year. Maybe there's something to that we're getting able to see more and more of historical relics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just a thought I was having about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is written up by Matthew. Is it
Wilkening?
Wilkening.
I'm guessing that's how you say it.
So,
and some photos by Lynn Goldsmith and Daniel Knighton. I'm guessing these weren't the same day.
No, that
couple
Lynn
years
Goldsmith.
apart.
Yeah, Lynn Goldsmith did a lot of the stuff back in the 70s.
Yeah, that's the Frankenstein, right? He's holding on the left.
Stuff. Technically, it wasn't called Frankenstein yet.
It wasn't Frankenstein yet.
Yeah.
He was still tinkering with it.
Well, it sort of was, because it wasn't a guitar that he just bought. He bought the body, bought the neck, chiseled out the humbucker out. Zeke, what's going on, man? In the chat, good to see you. By the way, smash that thumbs up, you guys, on this video.
Oh yeah,
and
I'm gonna do that right now.
Yeah, smash that thumbs up. And yeah, we know today's April Fools,
so be careful what you hear.
Oh,
but this article apparently was written a week ago, so
this was several days ago. I've been saving this to talk about this.
He said, "Hey, I gotta wait till I can get Mike on the air."
Yeah, I had to get Mr. Mike involved in this. So yeah, we'll just kind of. I'll start. I know we can trade off, reading some stuff. From their barnstorming 1978 days as an opening act to their final shows as homecoming rock legends in 2015, Van Halen's set list changed a lot over their touring career. Here's a chronological breakdown of the average set list from each of Van Halen's 15 major tours, showing which songs were added from the group's 12 studio albums for each new tour and which were taken out of rotation. Of course, Van Halen's, and we don't have to read this whole thing, but it's just to kind of set up, what we're
about to look at.
So basically, it's saying that Van Halen started in 78, started playing shows. They toured the world, and then eventually Sammy Hagar came in. Kept touring. Then eventually Gary Sharon came in. They did one tour.
That brought it was basically one tour. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call there. Hang on. Let me cancel this phone call. So that I went to that show. Did you go to the Van Halen 3 tour? No, I think you said you couldn't.
Unfortunately, that's when I was working with Desmond Child, and I was basically playing shows every night myself. So I didn't get to go, although I did get the album Van Halen 3.
Sure.
I did get to hear on radio they had played like a live show, and then there was all the stuff on MTV.
Live at the 10 spot. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
great tour. We were talking about Van Halen 3 a couple weeks ago. And what I don't think we did get to talk about was how great the tour was. It was better than the album. And I think I've never heard anybody say, oh, they sucked on tour. Like, Eddie was on fire, no pun intended, but he was sounding great. And I think he was confident and excited for this third version of the band. And they sounded phenomenal. And then they busted out a bunch of stuff that they didn't think they'd ever play again live from the Dave era. And Gary was able to hit those notes really well, and he sounded better live than he did on the album, in my opinion, and was able to give both the Sammy stuff and the Dave stuff a breath of new life, which was really cool. And so that was, as far as the set lists, they brought in some old stuff. Somebody Get Me a Doctor hadn't been played live in years and years, so it was pretty cool to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was. The one thing is, you never heard anybody complain when it came to that
Yeah.
tour. I mean, everybody complained about the album. Nobody complained about the tour.
Yeah, it was great. It was a ton of fun. And Gary was a great showman. He ran out in the crowd, and you'll see on this Live at the 10 spot thing, he goes out in the crowd and is giving people high fives and running, and then he tumbles down the stairs back to the stage. And it was pretty fun. I mean, he was a good showman. He was a little wacky and flamboyant on stage, but that's what you're supposed to be when you're the singer of Van Halen.
Yeah, of course. So according to this article, with data from Setlist.fm, here's a look at how Van Halen's set lists have evolved between 1978 and 2015, which was their final tour.
Yep.
Wow, it's been 10 years, man.
Yeah, 10 years in October it will be.
Wow.
And I want to say real quick, I don't know if you guys ever do this. I use Setlist.fm at every concert I go to now. Not to like write down what songs were played, but because bands play typically the same set between shows, maybe with a song or two difference, maybe 3 or 4 difference at the most, I know what they're going to be playing later, and I know when the last song is coming, so I can get ready to head to the parking lot before anyone else. But I love it. I love knowing what they're going to play, and listening to sometimes I'll even make a playlist before the show to like get to know those songs if I don't know them well enough, so I can enjoy them more. And I'm not talking just Van Halen, but I'm saying any show I go to.
You go to a lot of shows.
I'm going to fewer and fewer because I'm not on speaking terms with Ticketmaster right now. I'm not too friendly with them at the moment. I'm not a fan at the moment. So I try to go to smaller shows for sure. Like I went to kind of a small show about a year or two ago. What was this? How long ago was that one?
Wait, we were there, right?
Yeah.
That was the one that we went to. Yeah.
We didn't have to do Ticketmaster. It was a smaller venue. So I like going to smaller shows now, but yeah, I've been to a bunch. But anyway, check, if you guys don't know setlist.fm, what's cool about that is people can add set lists and argue over, no, they didn't play that song that night. They played that the next night, but they, and then it gets kind of like Wikipedia, it gets figured out by the masses, and you can go back and say, I was at a show in 1987 and I wrote down on the back of my menu from the restaurant all the songs they played, and you can put them in there. And it's got stuff from way before the internet, which is really cool.
Wait, so I've known about Setlist.fm for years and years and years, but it's kind of like a Wikipedia where people can add stuff and then it just gets sorted out. Like
kind of like
how do you know what's like really true?
That's a good question. I think people eventually kind of get it narrowed down to what is, whoever has the most, just like Wikipedia. How do you know it's true? It's like there's moderators and fact checkers and stuff like that. So any way that people can fact check is great. It's also the same as what's another website that does something like that? I forget the name of it, but it's basically people arguing about what the lyrics are in a song because it didn't come in the liner notes or something like that. and people kind of try to figure out what it said. No, they said in an interview that this was the lyric or something like that. So people can kind of democratically figure it out together. But I'd say it's about 98% accurate all the time.
You would think these days with AI becoming bigger and bigger, they'll just sort all that out.
Yeah, and especially if someone takes a picture of the set list. We were at that Mammoth show, and somebody got the set list that was taped to the floor. You know, they hand those out at the end of the show to some lucky person, and if they take a picture of that and say, "See, setlist.fm, this is what they played that night." So it's mostly democratically run, but it's a pretty good resource for every show of every tour, especially going forward with the internet being at the age that it's at now.
Sure. Yeah. And like I said, I've known about Setlist.fm for years, and I don't know when it first came out, but I'm thinking as long as I've been on the internet, 20.
Whenever they started doing things that weren't .com at the end, you had either .com, .gov, or .edu. Those were the only three for a long time. And then they started doing some other suffixes for websites. So it would have been 15 years ago or 20 years ago, maybe at the most. I can't remember when they started doing separate things. When
people started hogging domain names, basically.
Right. Or sitting on domain names. Yeah, for sure. They had to come up with other things. But yeah, if you guys don't know Setlist, check it out for any show you're going to. Or if you remember some old show and you want to remember what they played at the show you were at, you know, it's fun for that too.
Yeah. And by the way, this show was not sponsored by Setlist.fm, but if you're watching, dude,
I'm a fan of it.
We love you guys, and we'll talk about you every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
He goes to all the shows. He knows all of them.
I'm an author. I'm a great contributor. No, I don't need to. Some nerds are out there going, well, they just played this song. I'm going to enter it in on my iPhone at the show, you know? So I'm sure that's happening somewhere. It should be noted that each entry below is focused on the average set list for each tour. Okay, so they've condensed it down here. Sometimes Van Halen would switch things up for a show or two or a portion of the tour. It was also a bit hard to track instrumental songs such as Eruption or Cathedral, which start out getting their own spot on the set list, but were eventually subsumed into Eddie Van Halen's nightly guitar solo showcase. So some of these things are going to be
true.
Yeah, some of these things are just going to be like, okay, this is the gist of what they were playing. So for example, go ahead.
The 78 World Tour, you guys. After years of honing their performance and songwriting skills on the club scene, Van Halen exploded onto the rock world at large with their self-titled 1978 debut. So they had toured with Journey, Ted Nugent. It says the Stones. I know they toured with the Stones.
Maybe one or two shows in the States or
later.
Something.
Yeah. But a typical 1978 World Tour set list is On Fire, I'm the One, Michael Anthony bass solo, Runnin With the Devil, Atomic Punk, Alex Van Halen drum solo, Little Dreamer, Feel Your Love Tonight, Ain't Talking About Love, guitar solo.
This is sounding familiar to put all these songs.
Yeah. And the thing is too, though, is this particular like set, this is also very similar to like shows that they were playing before they went out on the tour.
Right. Yeah.
Like you can get like
in a club on the strip.
What's it called? The place where I walked in the back door and they kicked me out one time. Pasadena Civic.
Oh, okay.
There's a Pasadena Civic show out there, which is one of the best Van Halen bootlegs from that era.
Oh, is it?
And yeah, and this set list is very much like that.
Yeah. Well, that era, they played I remember reading in the book Van Halen Rising how that when they got to the Pasadena Civic, it was like, wow, man, we've made it. They were really proud of bringing in that huge crowd into the Civic because they'd been playing backyard parties and little clubs and stuff for years.
Yeah, but supposedly they weren't even playing the main room there. They're playing like a smaller room.
Oh, really? No, eventually, yeah, maybe on the second tour or something like that, they were playing the full Civic auditorium and small arenas and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that was all just the first album, basically.
That's all they had.
Yeah.
First record, You Really Got Me, Ice Cream Man, you know?
I'm trying to think, was
So-
there anything on the first album they didn't play here?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You
In the
talking
chat,
about love. Yeah.
what do you guys
see
think in the
anything
chat?
that's not there?
What do you guys think? I don't think so. I think it's mostly the first
They
record.
just basically played the first album. And here's a video that we're not going to play,
Yeah.
but live in Fresno, 1978. That's on this article. You can check it out.
Yeah.
But then what happened?
Well, 1979 was the World Vacation. Van Halen kept the pedal to the metal in 1979, releasing Van Halen 2, which actually we just did a
birthday.
show. We just did a show talking about Van Halen 2, 46th anniversary. So check out actually at the end of this video there'll be a card, and you'll be able to click on that card, and where we talked about Van Halen 2.
Overlord,
So-
you're saying they played Somebody Get Me a Doctor and Bottoms Up was the encore for which tour? Are you talking about that first 78 tour or later? And
For the
DOA,
first
too.
tour. For the first tour.
So they left that off the list, yeah.
Like later on, when they were playing like the UK, when they were playing overseas, they started adding in some songs.
Oh, at the Pasadena Civic, he says.
He says Pasadena Civic. Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. But so here's another thing too, is at the end of the first tour, if you get some of the bootlegs from, the very last shows, you may hear some songs that would go on to be featured on the second record.
Yeah, nobody knew those songs yet, even if they had that first album.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of those songs actually they had demoed for the first record that didn't make the cut.
Right. But I'm
So-
saying if you bought that album in the stores and then went to see them in 78, and they encored with some of those other songs you'd never heard before,
Yeah.
I knew there was a handful of people who were big fans after just that first album blowing them away. So then they
Mhm.
must have been like, what? They have more? Oh my God. Because, their club days were such covers. And then they slowly started to bring in their own music into the club shows and into the backyard party shows and stuff. And then by their first official tour, it was all their own music.
Pretty much, other than Ice Cream Man.
Right. The covers that were on their albums, which I feel like
really got me.
those are unofficially theirs as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, okay. So by 79, a typical Wood Vacation tour set list, Light Up the Sky,
Oh,
Somebody Get Me a Doctor, of course, Alex Van Halen drum solo, Runnin With the Devil, Dance the Night Away, Beautiful Girls, On Fire, bass solo, You're No Good, Jamie's Crying, Feel Your Love Tonight, Out of Love Again, Ice Cream Man, Ain't Talking About Love, guitar solo, You Really Got Me,
that's a long show, man.
Bottoms Up. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good
Well,
long show.
They'd had 2 records now.
Right.
So they're basically playing, the first album, adding in some other ones.
Well, and that first tour wasn't a headlining tour, right? That was them going out with Black Sabbath,
They were opening, yeah.
and they were opening acts for a couple bands. Yeah, so they had a shorter set list. Was this one 79? Were they headlining their own shows by this point?
I feel like they were, yeah. I feel they were the headliners by then.
I know that was 79. I'm a little bummed they didn't show every show, but you can look it up on setlist.fm. The Oakland Coliseum Day on the Green, was that 79 that they played with Journey and
That was 78.
oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe they played that first set list basically.
Yeah.
But there was like no headline. Well, I guess was Aerosmith the headliner at that show technically, but they were like an act or two before.
I wasn't even born. Neither of us were born yet. Although
Neither of us?
Bay Area Rich was there.
Oh my God, Rich.
So
It's
he
fine.
would
It's
know.
that and the Dallas, Texas. What was it called? The Texas
Texas Jam.
Jam. Those are the 2 shows I wish I could have gone to as a
78.
kid. Those would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
Those would have been incredible.
So there was
And that's
8
kind of,
songs from the new album, 6 songs from the old album. Generally speaking, in that tour.
yes. Aerosmith headlined.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Rich is saying, "Wow."
I want that playbill framed on my wall.
Well,
Everybody but Pat Travers was a huge act back then. Or, went on to be huge too. Pat Travers' career didn't keep going up, but
I don't even know who that is.
exactly. That's my point. It was like Journey. Who else was? Montrose was at one of those shows, and they were friendly with Sammy for a day or whatever.
I think Sammy played a show solo-wise and had met Edward.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. But I could have sworn Van
Back
Halen
then.
and Montrose played a bill somewhere together. Anyway, then
Maybe,
1980 rolls around.
1980s World Invasion Tour, even through the 1980s, Women Children First was dominated by newly written material. Van Halen turned it around even faster when they did their second album, releasing their third album just a year and 3 days after Van Halen 2. So that's one thing you guys will see is the first, what they call the classic six-pack, Van Halen 2, Women Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, 84. Those albums, well, up until 84, they're all just a year apart.
They're boom, 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 boom.
So that's recording, going out and touring, coming back, recording, going out and touring. So just imagine how busy they were all those years.
Well, and Eddie said after the first tour, they came back and Warner Brothers told them, "Great, you owe us $5 million or something like that, right?" Because
something like that.
They didn't understand that basically they had been loaned the money to make the album, to go on tour and bring their set and their, all the crew that they needed. They were loaned the money for that, and they had to pay it all back with record sales. So the first album did fine, but it didn't blow up. It wasn't the greatest selling debut album of all time or anything like that. It slowly grew. And so eventually they became millionaires. But those first few tours, they had to grind. They had to get back in the studio and make more and make more. But they did it. And then new songs such as Everybody Wants Some and The Cradle Will Rock were more dynamic and perfectly designed for the arena-sized audiences the band was now drawing. And they hit the road for a 130-date world tour invasion, adding 5 songs from Women and Children First and a cover of Jimmy Reed's Bright Lights, Big City, which, have you heard them play that one on a bootleg or anything?
I want to say yes.
I don't know that I've heard that one. And they dropped the previous tour staples such as Van Halen 2's Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Beautiful Girls, and You're No Good, which was another cover, along with Van Halen, the first album's Feel Your Love Tonight. So this is what the typical World Invasion set list was. Go for it.
Romeo Delight, Bottoms Up.
Wait, my favorite. That's my favorite Dave era song.
Opening
the show with Romeo Delight.
Romeo?
Oh, would have blown me away. Just like exploding out of the gate. It would have been amazing.
That's how they opened Diver Down, right?
Oh, with that song on that tour, you mean?
With Romeo Delight. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Didn't they?
I didn't know that. Well, I don't know. I wasn't there.
We'll get to it. We have there's a tour in between or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Romeo Delight, Bottoms Up, Alex Van Halen solo, Runnin with the Devil, Tora, Loss of Control.
That's one song.
I think it was mainly Lost of Control because technically you can't really play Tora live.
It's just an intro, right?
It's a backwards guitar part. I did a lesson on how to do it.
So maybe they're writing that down as the name of the track from the album, but you're right. It's some sound. It's
just Lost of Control.
Play backward. Yeah.
Yeah. Take Your Whiskey Home, Dance the Night Away.
To bring to the show, yeah.
Women in Love, Jamie's Crying, Bright Lights, Big City. I've heard them play that. Everybody Wants Some, and The Cradle Will Rock, which we'll give you guys some trivia here. Anytime you see Edward playing a Les Paul from the 80 tour era, let me show you guys
that gold one, example. Gold top one.
Eddie Van Halen, 1980.
Generally, your big screen there.
Let me see. Probably should have said Les Paul. I didn't.
Ogre Lord, you're a big fan of the Fool's song. We should play that one today. It's April Fool's Day. Is that a day we've dedicated to that song from Van Halen? I think so.
So anytime you see like this, like him playing a Les Paul with no neck pickup, he was
Yeah, the
always
gold top. Yeah.
playing. He was always playing Cradle Will Rock.
How much did he
Because
look like Slash in that picture without the top
because
hat?
because he was always playing Cradle Will Rock there. Because
Now,
Mike was playing a
keyboards.
keyboard on stage.
And is that, I think that's the first keyboard we hear here on a Van Halen record, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a Wurlitzer. Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Played through a Marshall stack. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
For that rhythm part. Da, 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 dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
That's just, there's no guitar on that.
Well, there is. I mean, that part, that's a key. That's a electric
Oh, I mean,
piano.
in the song, he plays guitar, but yeah, it's an electric piano playing a riff.
There is a trilling part, and there is some riffs.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
But just
some
that part, for years I thought that was a cool guitar effect he was doing. Then I read that was all a keyboard, or like you said, electric piano is a more accurate term for it. And which I guess that's what a keyboard is, but it was bigger and heavier like a piano and pumped through a Marshall stack and cranked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they rounded it out with
On Fire, guitar solo, Ain't Talking About Love, Ice Cream Man, You Really Got Me. So
that was also a 17 song set on average.
So 1980, and some other trivia. I know that says 1980 footage. There's not much 80 footage out there, really. As far as all their tours,
Oops.
as far as all the tours, I would say 80. You have the least amount of footage.
Now, you guys know what this little white thing is in the video?
I
can tell you.
I would say it's a filter.
That's a hole in the film called a sprocket, and that is from, I believe would be 16 millimeter film. And so to get the full picture, they didn't crop it out when they transferred this to video. They left the sprocket. That's what would push the film forward in an old film camera. So I believe that's what that is. It's just a sprocket to move each frame forward on a gear. So they're getting us the whole image all the way to the sides.
I wonder if that's real, though.
Oh, I think it's real. I'll bet you it's real. Because in 1980, I'll bet you they were still filming 16 millimeter.
Super 8?
Maybe Super 8, but this looks better than Super 8. So it could be either 16. You know what? You're right. 16 has more sprockets than one. This is probably 16 millimeter has more than one sprocket. That might be Super 8 or.
I think that's Super 8, but that's like a filter to make it look like a sprocket.
Maybe, but I'm telling you that when they process film to be, show it on YouTube or something, you can choose to either crop it so that you don't see the sprockets, or you can leave it the full thing because there's still a little bit of picture. Oops, right out here. You see, it comes all the way out to here. So maybe they were just trying to show the whole thing. I don't know. Anyway, a little technical, nerdy film stuff.
We'll have to go back over there when we're done here because I'm interested to see what that is. Okay, so that was 1980. 1981, Fair Warning.
God, just every year was a new tour. Can you imagine that?
Every year, a Van Halen fan from 78 to
83 or so. They got a tour every year.
You got a new record every year, a tour every year. I mean, that must have been a crazy time, man.
And it says here, Van Halen was keeping up a breakneck recording pace, dropping 1981's Fair Warning in just 13 months after Women and Children First. The dark and aggressive record found Eddie Van Halen asserting himself more in songwriting process, the first steps in a tug of war that would eventually lead to David Lee Roth leaving the band. It's more complicated than that, but that's kind of true. They slowed down on the road just a bit, with 1981 being the first time in 4 years that the group hadn't played at least 117 shows. With less pop influence than previous albums, Fair Warning didn't reach the commercial heights of its predecessors, but tracks like Mean Street and particularly Unchained became fan favorites almost overnight and are great to hear live.
Yeah.
Pick it up.
Van Halen's On Fire returned to its early days show opening spot with Ain't Talking About Love took over closing duties, and Feel Your Love Tonight returning to the set to make way to half a dozen Fair Warning songs. Bottoms Up, Lost Control, Take Your Whiskey Home, Women in Love, and most shockingly, Incredible Rock were removed from the set lists.
Oh man, they better replace it with some good stuff though.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the famous video they're talking about here. The audio from Van Halen's June 11th show in Oakland, California, at the Oakland Coliseum, not the Coliseum, the Oakland Arena, which is right next to the Oakland Coliseum for now anyway. It's going to be going away very soon. Was reportedly recorded in full, but has yet to be released. And I think we've seen clips and pieces of that. In fact, somehow Van Halen neglected to release a live album during Roth's first tenure with the group. Video of 3 songs, there it is, from the Oakland shows were released by the band and can be seen below. But we're not going to show them here.
No. But a typical Fair Warning set list: On Fire, Sinner's Swing, Alex Van Halen drum solo, Hear About It Later, So This Is Love, Jamie's Crying, Michael Anthony bass solo, Runnin' With the Devil, Dance the Night Away, Sunday Afternoon in the Park. Very
now,
interesting.
I would think, they didn't go from his bass solo directly into that, because I know he used parts of what is that in Fair Warning? It's called the Michael Anthony bass solo that goes. Oh, it is called Sunday Afternoon.
It is Sunday.
And then it goes into. Yeah. So did he just? That's weird that it wasn't part of his bass solo. It was later on.
It would become his bass solo for, I think, one tour.
Just the 1991.
90. Was it 90? Was he doing that in 91? 91
to
93.
Final knowledge, because on the Right Here, Right Now, he plays Sunday Afternoon in the Park as part of his bass solo.
And that came out in 92. See, it's weird, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but you really consider Carnal Knowledge and Right Here, Right Now like the same thing, because technically their live album is from Carnal Knowledge, but then when they went out to tour for that, it was sort of the same, but different.
Yeah. He did some different things with it.
And I was there too, by the way. I went to all those shows here in the Bay Area.
I wasn't ready for rocking just yet. I was still a wee lad.
Oh my gosh! But
I got there in a few more years.
Sunday Afternoon in the Park is actually that's a cool one, because Edward does play a keyboard for that.
Oh, really?
You actually you'll see
that.
Photos. Yeah. He plays he actually does play the Electro-Harmonix mini synthesizer keyboard, and there's not any like great video of it, but there are photos.
So it's him and Mike, basically.
I think it's him and Alex.
And Alex. Oh, okay.
Eddie Van Halen, Sunday Afternoon in the Park, 1981. Let me see if there's a. Oh, there we go.
I guess I didn't think of it as. I thought of it more as a Mike showcase song, but it really is the trio.
So that's him playing Sunday Afternoon in the Park live in 81.
Oh, cool.
Basically, he's just like back there playing the keyboard.
And his Wicked Witch of the East socks. I love those. He'd hike up his pants and I don't know, anyway. And then they did Romeo Delight. So then they threw Romeo Delight in the middle of the set, or towards the end of the set. And then Everybody Wants Some. Ice Cream Man brought in Mean Street, which, so good. So good to hear that stuff live. Then Eddie's guitar solo. Then bringing back Feel Your Love Tonight and You Really Got Me from the first album. Then hitting him with Unchained, which later became, I think, an opening for a lot of tours. I think they opened the Van Halen 3 show with Unchained.
They did.
Yeah, and then ending it with Ain't Talk About Love. So they had 7 songs from the debut album, 6 from the new album that tour, and 2 and 1 from their previous albums before that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys go to the Ultimate Classic Rock, you can watch this quote unquote full concert. It's not officially released as a full concert, but it's at least a few clips, right?
It's not a full show, and there's so much debate whether
It's
the
the
full
full.
show even
It's
exists.
the full amount of right. It's the full amount of footage we have. I think is what they meant by full concert.
It is. It is. Let me say one more thing. You know
Mhm.
how it has the Eddie Van Halen guitar solos, where it says
Right.
guitar solo. In '81, Fair Warning era, that right there, he was already experimenting with a song that would become Cathedral.
Right. The swelling. Playing
So
with
if
the
you
technique of
so if,
swelling the volume knob.
yeah, he was already using the technique, kind of playing it, but so it's kind of a darker version of Cathedral that he was playing at the time. But then, of course, he would go on to record it on the next album as a song. And we'll actually, if you scroll up to the Diver Down era, we will see Cathedral. Do they have it listed? Because technically it was a song next.
Was that this tour?
Yeah.
The
Yeah, so
Hydra
there's
Shoot
number
tour was
11.
Diver Down.
Number 11 see, it says
Yeah.
Cathedral. So it was considered a song, even though it was really it was the
It was an
opening
intro
for
to
Secrets,
Secrets, yeah.
because
Which
he
it
played
still
the same
is on the
guitar.
album as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's not considered a.
It's a separate track,
It's its own
but
song.
yeah, to me, like as you're listening to it, that feels like it flows pretty nicely into Secrets, which is one of my favorite songs they ever did.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll tell you a little bit about the Hydra Sheep tour, which sounds like a really dirty, hinting at something really dirty. I don't know. But this was 1982 and 1983. And in need of some time off the road and away from the recording studio, Van Halen agreed to release a standalone cover of Roy Orbison's "Oh, Pretty Woman" in return for a break from the grueling schedule of their last 4 years. So that came out as a solo before the album was ever recorded or announced. Isn't that right?
It came out as a single, and there's no mention of a Diver Down record on the single.
Right. They weren't sure that was going to happen. As it says, it was kind of like, all right, if you guys put out one more single just to keep you guys relevant on the radios, as how I read about it, then we will let you keep touring instead of going back into the studio. But when the song was an unexpectedly large hit, the label pressured them to get a corresponding album together. They reluctantly did so by cobbling together a bunch of covers, instrumentals, and revamping old unreleased songs such as Hang 'em High, which I think is an awesome song. One of Eddie's coolest, like, fast riffs, I think. Although Eddie Van Halen was very unhappy about all the covers, considering this a loss for him in that tug of war, Diver Down ended up being a surprisingly excellent and cohesive record. I don't know that everybody thinks that. It's interesting that Ultimate Classic Rock calls it that, because it's kind of one of the more divisive albums in the David Lee Roth catalog because of how many covers it was. But I agree. It's one of those albums you can put on and it just feels good. It's good vibes through the whole thing. It's kind of the opposite of Diver Down in a way. It's like not Diver Down. It's kind of the opposite of Fair Warning, which feels to me darker, more sinister. And this one's more like, hey, party, 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 and fun and light. And there's that great picture on the back, or is it on the back or in the inside of the liner notes? And it's them playing the US Festival. And they're going to mention it here.
It's the back, and it's
That's an opening tour show for someone else.
It was an opening. Well, in the chat.
I think it was the Stones. They were opening for.
Yes, yeah.
And so it looks like a huge crowd. It's not technically their crowd, but it's this daytime. I always loved the idea of festivals in the daytime. I still think they don't do enough. Like Lollapalooza was like a daytime festival thing. They don't do enough rock and roll in the daytime. Day on the Green is daytime rock and roll. So there's this great photo of that, and I think that Diver Down gives me that vibe of rocking out in a beautiful, bright, sunny blue day. So the band hit the road again in July of 1982, staying on the road for just shy of 100 dates this time, including their infamously off the rails US Festival performance. We could do a whole episode of just about the US Festival. A whopping 9 songs from Diver Down were added to the set list, but that number was a bit deceiving, as Cathedral, Intruder, and their a cappella cover of Happy Trails are all pretty brief, just a few minutes at the longest. Bottoms Up has also made its way back into the set list, teaming up with Diver Down songs to push out On Fire, Sinner's Swing, Hear About It Later, So this is Love, which I don't know why you'd take that out of a set list. That's so much fun. Sunday Afternoon in the Park, Mean Street as well, and leaving Unchained as the only Fair Warning song to make it to the next tour. Feels like they were taking the darkness out of the set list. And then also Feel Your Love Tonight. So tell them about the Hide Your Sheep set list.
Typical set list. Romeo Delight, Unchained.
Still a great way to open a show, I think.
Yeah. Alex Van Halen drum solo. Runnin With the Devil, The Full Bug, Jamie's Crying.
That one's so much fun.
Little Guitars, Where Have All the Good Times Gone, Michael Anthony bass solo, Hang 'em High, Cathedral, listed as its own song, although Edward does play it really fast.
Yeah.
It's played way faster than when he...
On the record.
Like his guitar solos for the next several... maybe not even 84, but... 5150, Live Without a Net 5150, how when it goes to Cathedral, it's more chill.
Yeah, he slows it down.
Second half.
Yeah.
Here, he goes super quick.
Burns through it.
So it doesn't even...
Maybe he wasn't confident in it yet. Lewis is asking, didn't they make a crazy amount of money on the US Festival? It's not the US Festival, it's the US Festival, which was literally the name of it. But yeah, at that time, I forget what the number was. Zeke is saying maybe it was 1.5 million because of David Bowie's pay. They were the largest paid act for the amount of time they were on stage, like at the time ever, because of that show.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? I think
they made the Guinness Book of World Records for highest paid,
like per minute. They got the most money per minute.
Yeah, in the chat, if you guys find the info, feel free to post it.
Zeke is saying maybe around 1.5 million, but yeah, we'd have to see because it was like a half an hour set or something, and they kind of blew through it. But anyway, Cathedral, Secrets, and then what?
Dance the Night Away. Mm-hmm. Everybody Wants Some. Somebody Get Me a Doctor, which also includes, it doesn't say there, a cover of I'm So Glad.
Oh, really? Cream.
By Cream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it's more than that. It kind of, Somebody Get Me a Doctor includes I'm So Glad and kind of an instrumental of, in the chat. What's the instrumental they start playing of a song that would appear on the next record?
Oh. The next record being 1984 or Diver Down?
Being 1984. Yeah. There you go.
You said
Girl,
I thought you said
Girl Gone
cover.
Bad.
I was like, there are no covers on 1984. Maybe I heard
there almost was.
Oh, really?
There almost was a cover on 84, which they didn't finish. Yeah.
What was that?
But I think in the Midnight Hour.
Really?
I think they were working up. Yeah.
Huh.
So. Anyway, so
and
Girl
then they
Gone
ended
Bad.
With Happy Trails, right? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Girl Gone Bad is in there. Wait, scroll up. Scroll up.
More.
Yeah, because we were still talking about Doctor. Somebody Get Me a Doctor. So
right.
Really, there's like 3 songs included in Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Ice Cream Man, Intruder.
Oh, so this is
which.
An interlude of these songs. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Intruder, actually, I believe David Lee Roth actually played the keyboard live for Intruder.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, because I saw a video one time. I haven't seen it since. It's from some Diver Down show where Dave runs off stage, and then you hear the keyboard, and then he comes running back out when they start playing the actual song. But supposedly David Lee Roth was the one that wrote the keyboard part to Intruder.
It's not crazy complex, so I can see him. I don't know him to be much of a piano player, but it's only da da na na da na na.
And also,
right? It's not crazy hard.
I have the isolated track to that, and
really?
There's a lot of missed timing in it.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
So
I
really
ever
believe
seen him bust out an acoustic on stage, but yeah. That would be kind of cool.
I believe Roth played the keyboard for Intruder, maybe even on the album.
There's no way.
Seems like it.
I don't believe that. I think Eddie must. Well, you're saying the isolated track from the record?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I have it.
Yeah.
I have it.
If there's mistimings, I would not say it was Eddie, because Eddie's one of the most rhythmically, perfect guys.
Mm-hmm. So Intruder into Pretty Woman. And then later on, well, actually, Pretty Woman, this was the only tour. Was this the only tour they did, Pretty Woman? Up until later when Roth came back.
Did they? Yeah, they did it in the 2015.
Yeah, but they didn't do Intruder then.
Right.
They just went right into Pretty Woman. Of course, the guitar solo, Ain't Talking About Love, Bottoms Up, You Really Got Me, and Happy Trails. But then what it really doesn't say here is that after Happy Trails, they go back into You Really Got Me.
Oh, so it was somewhere in the middle.
So technically Happy Trails wasn't the last song. It was just like
yeah, but you don't list it. Sometimes people on setlist.fm will say You Really Got Me, and then parentheses Happy Trails interlude or something like that. So sometimes you'll see it like that, but yeah, it depends, because it's not a perfect science of how many songs are played, because sometimes artists like to mix other songs into other songs. So that's here's the breakdown. Songs per album: 9 songs off the new album, 5 off the first album, 3 off the second album, 2 off the third album, and 1 baby little song off of Fair Warning.
Dude, that's wild how the previous album
got only one.
They're only playing 1 song from that. That shows you there weren't any like hits or singles off that.
Yeah, Fair Warning was not seen as a commercially successful album, but now it's considered one of their coolest, like most daring albums they ever did in that first, or maybe ever, I guess you could say.
Because generally, a band, the more records they put out, the songs that they play from each record generally are the hits,
right?
Or the ones that people really want to hear.
The singles, yeah. And I don't think they put out. I guess, was it just Mean Street and Unchained were considered the singles from that one?
No, there was more. So This Is Love was a single.
Oh, good, because that's one of my favorites off that album.
I'm trying to think, because I used to have the 45.
Beautiful Girls? No, that's
Beautiful Girls
that's second
was
album.
A single. That's from the second album, yeah.
Right. I'm thinking of I'm trying to think of what other songs would have been. Anyway, so this is constantly growing. There's no year from the beginning of their first release through 1984 that they did not hit the road. There is no year where they took a year off.
Technically, they took a year off in 83. They didn't tour in 83, but they played the US Festival in 83, and they got ready for that show like it was a tour. But they basically played the Diver Down set list for the US Festival.
I'm just going off of this.
Yeah.
So technically, they were going back into the studio and doing a lot of stuff, because I should also mention the way they recorded their albums back in 1978 versus 1984, which was recorded and technically released still in the year of 1983. Is that correct?
The back of the 84 album says copyright 1983.
1983.
Overlord, that's true. They did play South America in 83, but that was a part of the Diver Down tour, the ending of the Diver Down tour.
Yeah, so they took a long time. So because I was saying that the way that they recorded was 4 guys live in a room recording take after take of each song, and there was no layering, right? Eddie wasn't dubbing and layering a lot on the first 2 albums or so. The
first 2 albums, not really. Women and Children First. Well,
he's at
least really.
You're right, but he's got his keyboard for Cradle Will Rock, and then he's got to play guitar over that. So there's some dubbing going on there. By the time we get to 1984, I think there's a lot more of that going on. And so it took longer to make an album, I think.
It really started during Fair Warning. Edward did more overdubs. He'd have to sneak back into the studio at night during Fair Warning to re-record parts that he wasn't happy with. Right. So that really started then.
That was back before he could sneak into the studio in his own property. But by 1984, that had changed.
By 1984, because they had built 5150 in 82.
While they
were out on tour for Diver Down, the studio was being built
in his home
at home.
Culver City. Where is 5150? I think it's in Culver City.
It's
It's in LA.
You could say LA. Technically, it's Studio City.
Studio City, that's what it is. And they're on tour, and the construction guys are back in LA building his racquetball court. Right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they still let it stand. The city let it stand, but it's paid for itself many times over. So,
oh man.
So here in 1984, still smarting from being forced to fill Diver down with cover songs, Eddie Van Halen built a recording studio at his own house and demanded more creative control on the next Van Halen album, which was 1984. He overcame the objections of David Lee Roth and others in the camp to include 2 keyboard-heavy singles on the record, and was proven correct when Jump became the band's first, and to this day only, #1 single. The tour's typical set list included 7 of the 9 songs from 1984, and to make room, 6 of the 9 Diver Down tracks were removed from the show, leaving just Cathedral, Little Guitars, and Pretty Woman. And then Van Halen's On Fire from the first album was brought back, helping to push out longtime staples such as Dance the Night Away and Ice Cream Man. And personally, I would have been fine with that.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
during the 84 show, there's no intruder. They just go into Pretty Woman. That's
right.
What that is.
So it does say Cathedral, which is instrumental, and Little Guitars, which is instrumental. Well, I guess, yeah, because it goes into, there's a Little Guitars intro. Oh, so they did the full Little Guitars song there. He probably including the intro.
They did the full, I don't know did he do the intro?
That's what I'm wondering, if they meant just
have.
the intro, but because that's an amazing feat. That's an amazing feat of him doing his little, what do you call it, trilling, while just hammering on the bass part. Dun, 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 dun.
But generally he did the intro during his solo spot. He didn't do it during the actual song.
Did I lose you?
Am I gone?
We're back.
I'm here.
Okay, maybe it's me. This happened during our other thing. Say that again. So typically they did what?
Little Guitars, they would play the song, but generally, and in the chat, by the way, you guys can correct us if we're mistaken. The Little Guitars intro he would play during his solo spots.
Right, that's what I was wondering, if when they say just leaving just Cathedral and Little Guitars and Pretty Woman, I was wondering if they meant Cathedral and the intro to Little Guitars as part of his guitar solo or something. But maybe they did play the whole song.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that intro. Go listen to that. And he's doing 2 things at once that I've tried doing, and I cannot keep. First of all, I'm not great at trilling, but he had a way of twisting his wrist like this that was just perfectly in. It was a machine. He would trill that high E while he was hammering out with his left hand the notes that are the lower end notes, and it's such a cool effect. And he's brilliant at it. And that goes into one of my favorite Van Halen songs, Little Guitars, one of the happiest Van Halen songs I've ever heard. Happy rock, I would call that, when they would play those kind of songs.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too with
Eddie cheated on that, says Lewis. He did that in 2 different takes, you think?
No, it was 1 take, but he basically, what he means by that, Edward would say in interviews that he would hear flamenco style guitars and he wanted to emulate that. He said the way that he did it, people thought it was him playing doing a certain ways. He's like, no, I did it like this. It was all the hammer-ons with the left hand.
Yeah.
That he does.
Is that cheating? I can't do that.
Edward thought
I can do the hammer-ons, but I can't also trill the high E at the same time. That's the hard part for me, because they're in kind of different rhythms.
Yeah.
That's what makes it really hard for me. Man, if that's cheating, I'm crazy impressed with his cheating.
I think a lot of people consider his trilling cheating, because even later on during 5150 tour, him and Sammy would solo together, and there's a part during Live Without a Net where Sammy runs up and says He's like, you're cheating again, because he's doing the trilling.
Okay.
Because only he can do that.
The hard part. Yeah, for real. So then Van Halen's On Fire was also brought back, helping to push out Dance the Night Away and Ice Cream Man, which I mentioned. 6 short years after they exploded onto the worldwide touring scene, the original lineup of Van Halen played their last ever concert together in Nuremberg, Germany on September 2nd, 1984. And here's the set list.
Typical 84 set list. Unchained, Hot for Teacher, drum solo, On Fire, Runnin' With the Devil, Little Guitars, Cathedral, House of Pain, bass solo, Jamie's Crying, I'll Wait.
Wait, was this the first time they brought... Oh, this is new stuff from 84, House of Pain, which used to be an old Club Days song called... Oh, no, what was the other song that had the name House of Pain in it?
There was a demo
of
House of Pain, but it was a different song.
And it used the horns that are now at the beginning of Runnin' With the Devil.
Runnin' With the Devil.
It
started with House of Pain. It was a Gene Simmons version demo. Demo, where it's like House of Pain, those horns.
Yeah.
And then it would go from those horns to Runnin' With the Devil.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, keep going with the Jamie's Crying and then I'll
House
Wait.
of Pain. Bass solo, which actually, if you guys listen to Michael Anthony's bass solo from a lot of those years, listen to that, and also listen to the beginning of the 84 album, the track called 1984. You'll hear some very similar things there. Jamie's Crying, I'll Wait, Everybody Wants Some, Girl Gone Bad, 1984.
That's an intro. That's just
the intro,
keyboard intro.
Jump, which, by the way, I know I saw in the chat somebody was saying that Michael Anthony played keyboards. He did. Michael Anthony played keyboards along with Edward on Jump.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, on I'll Wait too. They both.
Well, those are I was going to say those are the two keyboard heavy songs that they mentioned, and I got to say I've heard Jump a million times. Everybody loves Jump, but I could hear it completely note for note in my sleep. I'll Wait to me is the more engaging, creative use of the synthesizer that I thought was just kind of kicked ass, and Jump is more fun. I'll Wait was like a heavy, cool use of that synthesizer. I loved it.
But what's very unique about the live version of Jump during 84 is Edward plays the guitar solo on the keyboard. So there's no guitar.
So he goes in the studio, in the record, it goes keyboard solo, guitar solo. And that, or is that the other way?
Other way around. Yeah.
Other way around. Guitar solo into the keyboard solo. That's very cool. And then you're saying he did just the whole thing as one long keyboard solo live.
He basically played what was kind of the guitar solo on a keyboard. You know that little stick on a keyboard? Like on the left.
Stick?
What's the thing you move around? It moves the pitch.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a little. Not a toggle.
He did a lot of that.
Wheel. Okay.
Little wheel. Yeah.
It's kind of the equivalent of a whammy bar or a tremolo.
Yeah. Yeah. So he played a keyboard solo and he used that wheel to make it sound like the guitar part, and then it goes into the regular keyboard solo part.
Lewis, no, he played by 1984. That album, Michael Jackson's album, was already 2 years old, so he recorded that in late '81, early '82, I think. I think it was
Jackson's. It was '82 when it was recorded.
Wait, it came out in '83? No, it came out in '82, didn't it? I'm confused. Somewhere in there, but it was before 1984 for sure.
It was definitely before '84, but it had been like you couldn't get away from it for like the previous 2 years. It was everywhere.
Oh, and for the next 25 years. and boy, although they stuck together for another album and tour cycle, but from what I understand, Dave was nonplussed, and maybe even Alex, not too thrilled that Eddie went outside of the band and did anything with anybody else. Because they had made it kind of a pact that they were going to be a band and everything they did would be a band. And he thought, oh, no one's going to hear this album of this, that kid from the Jacksons. It's like a disco record. Why would anyone know that I played on there? And then it became the greatest selling album of all time. In fact,
well, up until Taylor Swift.
Did she beat Thriller?
She had to have. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. Anyway, I was trying to think if it was Michael Jackson's Thriller that beat out something of Van Halen's. Maybe it was 1984 sales on that year.
Thriller. The reason why 84 didn't go to number one is because of Michael Jackson.
That's what I'm saying. So for 2 years,
because some of the reasons because Edward had played on Beat It,
right?
But
and he didn't get any money for it.
No.
So he had a song on the number one album and didn't make a penny. But he was fine with that. I don't think he cared. It wasn't about the money to him.
Nah, he's a musician. He
Yeah.
just wants to play.
Michael Jackson's Thriller came out in 1982. So,
but the band was
right.
definitely, they weren't happy about it.
Yeah, and then he goes on to play on other things later on. Wasn't as big of a deal later in his career, but boy,
several things.
That was the beginning of the end. Ironically, even though it was like the biggest thing he did outside of the band, it caused a breakup ultimately. So then, guitar solo, Pretty Woman, Panama, got it, and Panama, I think was in their set list. We're gonna see forever after this, no matter.
Panama does not go away after this.
Jump does not go away.
Jump and Panama.
Well, wait.
From
We'll
1984.
see about 5150. Did Sammy sing Jump right from the get go? I guess we'll see. Lewis is asking if Michael Jackson was credited on the album. I don't think he was, at least not until repressings later down the road. I think it was just
he did.
Did he give?
I think he
did.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a favor he did to Quincy Jones.
I always knew about it. I mean,
well, you can certainly tell.
I had Thriller. But way before I had a Van Halen record. Yeah, and I always knew that was Eddie Van Halen on the guitar.
I didn't know because I was a big Michael Jackson fan as a kid, and I only became a Van Halen fan in the late 90s. And in the late 90s, I went, oh, I love this guy's guitar playing. And then somebody mentioned it or I heard it somewhere, and I went, all this time?
You heard it on this show.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've been doing the show a long time. I don't know if you've been doing it since 95, but not too long after that. So again, I'll just go back and say their final tour with Dave was 7 songs off of their new album, 5 off the first album, 3 songs off of Diver Down. Again, only 1 song off Fair Warning, 1 song off Women and Children First, and no songs from Van Halen 2, which some people, I'm sure you were talking about I think I missed that show about Van Halen 2, but some people still credit that as their favorite Van Halen album because it was so diverse and just more of the same from the first album, but venturing out even further. So it's kind of crazy that they did not have any songs on their 1984 tour off of that album, but they had so much good stuff to choose from. You got to cut something else. Overlord says, no, he got a Lamborghini. He was credited as ? On the album, and he didn't want credit. I think he was trying to keep it quiet. So on the first few pressings of that, I'm thinking on Thriller, he's like, don't put my name on this. I'll get in trouble. And it got out anyway. I mean, if you're a Van Halen fan, you heard it and you went, oh, yep, that. So anyway, Ron is saying Taylor Swift's best-selling album is 14+ million from her album 1989. We'll have to see what the all-time sales of Thriller are still, but so then comes a new era here, 1986, the 5150 tour, and after shocking the world by splitting up with David Lee Roth, are we still seeing it here? Let's see. Yeah, you got it.
What?
I just thought I got my little thing that said I was sharing. My screen went away. After shocking the world by splitting up with David Lee Roth at the height of their collective powers, Van Halen turned to Sammy Hagar, fresh off his I Can't Drive 55 success. 70 million for Thriller. I don't think Taylor's beat him yet. And capable of selling out arenas as a solo act as their new frontman for 1986's 5150 album. Determined to carve out a new identity for their new lineup, the group resisted making music videos. That's right, there's really no music videos for anything off 5150, which had been a big factor in 1984's success, and wiped all but 4 Roth-era songs from their set list. All but 4. I'll bet I could guess what they are right now. The show instead featured 8 of the 9 tracks from 5150, 2 each from Van Halen, the album Van Halen, their first album, and 1984, and a pair from Hagar's solo career, I Can't Drive 55, and There's Only One Way to Rock from his album Standing Hampton, during which Hagar gamely engaged in guitar duels with Eddie Van Halen on stage. Hagar mostly declined to sing the band's recent hit single Jump. That's what I was asking. Instead, bringing up a fan or some local celebrity from the town they were in to do the honors. A cover of Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll, which you can also see on the video if you have the old VHS tape or have access to a website called YouTube. The Live Without a Net show shows them playing that. And Hagar and Van Halen played together while announcing their union at Live Aid. They played that song, typically closing out the show. And this became the first Van Halen tour to be chronicled on home video, as I was mentioning, a slightly condensed version of their New Haven, Connecticut show, which was, the town was renamed just for that night. You remember what the town was renamed?
In the chat.
In the chat. What did they
chat.
read? It's pretty easy. What did they rename New Haven, Connecticut for the night? But the show was released as a video called Live Without a Net. And it was, for a lot of us, the first home video, live video, anything you ever got to see of Van Halen in a pre-internet era. So what kind of a set list did they have on the typical 5150 show?
Typical 5150 tour.
Overlord got it.
New Halen. So
they made it pretty obvious during that show. It's called New Halen now.
Yeah. And a lot of you guys will notice the tour did start with You Really Got Me, but Live Without a Net starts with One Way to Rock. So they did play the song, but
right,
it was cut out of the video. Yeah, probably because of licensing.
Probably at Sammy's request or something, maybe.
But You Really Got Me, There's One Way to Rock, Summer Nights, Get Up. Both songs, Edwards using a trans tremolo Steinberger guitar. Drum solo. And notice Dreams. That's another song that was cut out of
the
New
video?
Haven.
Yeah.
Edward plays keyboard on live for that one. 5150, bass
I
solo.
love that song, by the way. 5150 is maybe the best title track from a Van Halen album maybe ever. I think that song is so much fun live and on the record.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah, that's a great run. Bass, Michael Anthony's bass solo. Panama, Best of Both Worlds. Love Walks In. Good Enough, which was cut out of New Haven video. Guitar solo. I Can't Drive 55. Ain't Talking About Love. Why Can't This Be Love? Jump, where again, cut out from New Haven. And generally, Sammy, if you listen to audio bootlegs, you will always hear somebody that can't singing Jump, because it's somebody that Sammy would pull out of the audience. It would be some kid. You'd hear some kid singing Jump, you know.
Yeah.
And then Rock and Roll, Led Zeppelin.
Which was a really cool thing that they had never covered Zeppelin before on their tours. They definitely did some of that in the club days, in the party days, backyard party days. But yeah, you never got to hear Eddie do Jimmy Page, and Sammy doing Robert Plant is not bad. He's in that exact range. So he does a great, together they do a pretty cool Led Zeppelin cover. And I don't know if they ever did any others together over the years.
I was going to say Van Halen, you know, they could have made a pretty good Led Zeppelin cover band.
They could, especially with Sammy. Yeah, definitely with Sammy. I don't know about any other singers, but. So this, again, they were back to only having one album of new music to tour with, because they were really kind of scared to play anything from the Roth era. but they knew they had to play some hits.
Well,
and fill in some gaps.
It was a new band. They wanted, and one of the reasons why there was no music videos, I think they were boycotting MTV at the time, videos. But
why would they do that?
There's a Rolling Stone article on it. I forget. We'd have to look it up, but there is an article talking about why Van Halen didn't do, and this was back then.
Because they only did 3 videos for 1984, right? They did Jump, they did Panama, and they did Hot for Teacher. Which, by the way, did I see that they didn't play Hot for Teacher live? Did I miss Hot for Teacher in the 1984?
No, they played it. It's the second song.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So they only got one tour of that for a long time. One tour of playing Hot for Teacher live for a very long time. Which is crazy because that's a great song live. But yeah, go ahead. I was thinking about the fact that MTV banned their first real video, which was the Pretty Woman video.
Pretty Woman.
And aired it once and then banned it.
They got banned. Yeah, so I forget. There is an article out there that talks about it, why Van Halen did music videos. But I think one of the reasons was they wanted people to come out to the shows.
Right.
It was a new band.
We don't want to exist on TV. Yeah.
They wanted people to see the band live. And, of course, they still, they had that fan base for all those years, so they had to do some of those older tunes, Panama, Jump, but pretty much everything else was the brand new band, new songs.
Yeah.
Right? But I think on the flip side of that though, when Roth did the Eat 'Em and Smile tour, he did his album, but he also did a lot of older Van Halen songs.
Right. And he, to his credit, he wrote amazing lyrics. I think one of Dave's greatest contributions to the history of Van Halen was his lyrics. I think he's personally, I think he's a better lyricist than Sammy. Not as good of a singer at holding the right notes and all that stuff, but his words were, he's a poet in a weird rock and roll party kind of way. But,
imagine if they had worked together.
Sammy and Dave.
They did tour together one time.
Well, but if they could have gotten along, which they never did.
Imagine if that last Van Halen tour, the Kitchen Sink tour that was in the works.
Oh, don't
imagine if that would have happened. Imagine them together on stage without had been like.
Well, you call it the kitchen, because I have heard them call it the Kitchen Sink tour. Well, they'll throw everything in there but the kitchen sink, right? And in my mind, years ago, I thought of the Van Halen All-Stars tour, and I thought not only would it have all the original members, Michael would be back in the band, and Wolfie could both be on. They could be on opposite sides of the stage playing bass together. I don't care. They could come out for different songs. Yeah, why not? Who cares? They're part of the history. And then Dave sings some songs. Sammy sings some songs. They even let Gary come out and sing Without You. And then that's because the entire band of Extreme is opening for them. That was my idea. Because after that, Extreme got back together. I'm like, why not? Let them open for the band. And I thought the Van Halen All-Stars, put everybody back in there. And everybody just shut up, get along, get paid, have fun, realizing this is it. This is your last hurrah. And it could have been a short 5. What's Oasis doing in England? Like 2 shows for a reunion? They could have done 2 shows. They could have done 3, 4, 5 shows and then said, that's it, we're done. But it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
That was my fantasy. That's what I wanted it to end on. Thoughts, people? Let me know what you think of the Van Halen All-Stars reunion show. I think it could have been filmed and played in theaters across the country, like they do for concerts now.
What do you think about that? I know you go to a lot of shows. I know you also go. We're Facebook friends, so I see all this stuff. You also go to a lot of movies.
I go to a lot of movies.
What do you think about those concert movies? Have you gone to any of those?
Yeah. The last one I went to was for Ghost, the band Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was, it's because it's not like going to a movie where, let's see if I like this movie, and the people in the audience are there to judge it. But when it comes to live music, it's not live, it's pre-recorded, and I get to watch it later. It's all edited. But it's a show I didn't get to go see. I actually did see Ghost on that tour, but this was at the LA Forum. And everybody in that crowd already knows the songs, knows they like the band, and everybody's energized for that. I also went to a Metallica one before the release of their last album that was the day before, and it was all these music videos and animations that had been made for every song on the new album. So it was kind of this album release celebration thing, and everybody there was a Metallica fan. So I think it's certainly a hell of a lot cheaper than Ticketmaster ripping you off. But yeah, exactly. And the sound system is pretty good, and you got popcorn and drinks and everything, and you got a reserved seat. So it's a great way to, enjoy your time in the theater. You don't have to just go for movies. I think it's a cool way. And I would have loved to have a Blu-ray I could take home of Van Halen's final show. That would have been amazing.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
So now we get into your era, right? You're going into 1988 is when you started going to see Van Halen,
the
right?
Era, I had gotten into Van Halen the previous year or so, but when I first saw them live in 1988.
Yeah. So after
I was there.
After a brief break to allow Sammy Hagar to record a contractually mandated farewell solo album, it wasn't a farewell. It was a farewell to his record company. The solo album, I Never Said Goodbye, with his former label, with help from Eddie Van Halen on bass. Did he also sing any backup vocals? I wonder if on that album. I think he just played bass.
He may have.
But yeah, it's some of those songs stayed on Van Halen's. You will see here on their tour lineup for a while, including the most recent Sammy Hagar tour that you and I went to together. So Van Halen got to work on what might be their most diverse album ever. Interesting that they would claim that. I can see that for a little bit. 1988's OU812, which is how you pronounce the name of that album, saw the band dive even deeper into keyboard pop, as well as pushing their boundaries in other ways, such as a country-tinged Finish What You Started and the prog/jazz fusion influenced Mine All Mine. That is not how I would define that song, but okay. But yeah, it's definitely a standout track. The group stretched their set lists a bit longer than they had on the 5150 tour, keeping 4 songs from 5150 to go along with 6 songs from OU812, then adding Runnin' With the Devil from the Roth years, and then When Eagles Fly from Hagar's latest solo album, and Jump also vanished from the set list. So I was wrong. I thought Jump would be there forever in Panama, but nope. It was just Runnin' With the Devil on this tour was the only David Lee Roth era song.
No, Panama was here. Yeah, they did take Jump away. Jump did jump off the set list.
This would also be the last time Eddie Van Halen played live keyboards on stage. What? That's not true. For their next 4 tours, they hired Alan Fitzgerald of Montrose and Night Ranger fame to perform the keyboard parts off stage. That I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2004, they switched to using pre-recorded tapes of Eddie Van Halen's playing. The band's February 1st, 1989 show in Tokyo was pro-shot and is widely available on the internet. And people, I tell you, it rivals any other live recording of Van Halen ever. I think it's one of their best. So check that one out. But let's hear about the set list.
It's pretty amazing. Typical, what's it called? OU812?
OU 812.
Ouch, you too.
Yeah.
AFU, naturally wired.
It means all fired up, people. That's all it means. All fired up.
Oh, all fired up. There's only one way to rock. Summer Nights, Panama.
There it is.
Michael Anthony's bass solo. Runnin' With the Devil. Why Can't This Be Love? Mine All Mine. Alex Van Halen drum solo. Finish What You Started. Where Edward actually brought out a Stratocaster.
He played that on a clean tone Strat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and finger pick.
5150.
That was one of his only finger pick songs, really.
Mm-hmm. Cabo Wabo. Let's see.
Great
When It's
one
Love. Mm-hmm. When It's Love. Eagles Fly. I Can't Drive 55. Best of Both Worlds. Guitar Solo. Black and Blue. Ain't Talking About Love. You Really Got Me. And
then
Rock
and roll again. There you go. And can you briefly tell us about your first Van Halen show? Where was it? What do you remember from that? And how old were you? Well, no, you can't say that on the air.
I was a kid. I can tell you guys that. It was November 5th, 1988. This was called Bob Devaney Sports Center in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Wow.
And this was on the OU812 official tour, not the Monsters of Rock tour.
Ah, that was a separate tour.
That was like a stadium tour. Couldn't make
Was
it
that
to
more
that.
87?
No, it was 88. That was summer 88. This tour was winter 88.
I gotcha. Okay.
Because I remember Sammy saying, "Oh, it's because it was snowing outside." He's like, "It's freezing outside, but it's hot in here. It's a hot summer night." And
There
then
you
they
go.
went into the song. So I remember that.
And how were your seats?
Terrible. Seats were terrible. I had binoculars.
Oh man, because did they do the giant video screens yet?
No.
by then? They
Nope.
still weren't doing that. Oh man.
At least not there.
Yeah.
So I remember we were way back. The band that opened up, I'll take this out. The band that opened up was a band called Private Life. And that was a band where Edward had co-produced two albums eventually. They had one album for this. That was a band that Valerie Bertinelli discovered in Louisiana. And Edward had actually jammed with them for like several years up until this. Like you can find like photos of Edward and Valerie on stage with them back in like 1984.
I love
with
that
Private
stuff.
Life.
It's like Eddie had no qualms about small artists. He was not starstruck by anybody but Eric Clapton, and then he met him and didn't think it was all that great. And he just loved musicians, whether they were big or small or anything. He just connected with people who played music instantly. So that's always cool to see that.
Connected.
I've never even heard of that band.
He produced, you can find their records out there, and he didn't play on them, but he produced them. So the band's called Private Life.
There's
I remember
a YouTube
watching
video on them being interviewed and talking about Eddie Van Halen. Cool.
Oh yeah, with Edward.
Says Overlord, yeah.
Yeah. You can see video of him talking about them, and so I saw them, and then of course right after that, Van Halen on stage. Actually, I do have a couple photos from the show that I was at. They're from the local like college paper. If somebody reminds me, I will post them.
Holly, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to get to your comment there. I have some words for you on that one.
So
that's cool because what's also cool about Setlist.fm is they will talk about who the opening acts were for each headliner. If you look up Van Halen as a headliner, it will say, here's who opened and what songs they played. But let's say it was called Private Life, you said?
It's called Private Life.
So if you were to look up, for example, Private Life, they will get their own listing for the shows that they opened at. But if you look at Van Halen, it'll say, but maybe not that far back, but the further back you go, it's more dependent on people's memory and stuff like that. But nowadays it'll show, if you look up an opening act, it'll show it as if they're the headliners for all the listings on their page. But when you look at who the headliners were, it'll show that other band opened for them. So I love keeping track of the opening bands because I've seen so many bands open that I'd never heard of. And then they became kind of big and cool. And, I become a backdoor fan of them because I was introduced to them by one of my favorite bands somehow. I think that's always really cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I was gonna try to find a photo. I do have photos from that paper, but anyway, so my memories of that show. Um, I remember buying the tour book
Oh,
before
the
the
tour
show,
books.
and all the photos in the tour book were all taken from the Monsters of Rock tour the
Ah,
previous summer. So
previous,
it's all
yeah.
like outdoor stuff. I remember flipping through the book, thinking, "Holy crap, I'm about to see them."
Yeah.
I'm about to see them. I was so excited.
They don't do
And
tour books anymore, really. Like, I don't see
I don't
those
know.
anymore. I used to love those. I have mine from the, well, I'll get to it in a minute, but the Balance tour. I got one there.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only one
Mm-hmm.
I ever got from Van Halen, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Yeah. It was more of an 80s and 90s thing, I think. Because
Yeah.
now you just go home and look them up on the internet. This was like, you didn't have anything like that, so you get a little book instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had all that stuff. But so I remember I grew up on the Live Without Internet home video. So
Yeah.
when I saw them, it's like Live Without a Net but real.
But
You're
real.
But real, even though that
Live
was a
Without
real
a Net
show.
live. Yeah.
But a couple memories I have of it. I remember Edward wearing two different Converse shoes,
Oh, cool.
two different colors. I want to say he was wearing like red and yellow, like a red one on one foot, a yellow one on the other foot. And then I remember he had a beard.
Mm.
So I remember he was unshaven. He had a beard.
We didn't see a ton of tours where he was wearing a beard, but I saw him for the first time. He had a beard too.
Mm. And then I do remember during one of the shows or during one of the songs, he would run around and he would do these kicks and stuff. I remember him
Flying
running.
Eddies.
I remember him running up and kicking over a tray that had Michael Anthony's Jack Daniels bottle
Uh-oh.
sitting on.
Uh-oh.
I remember him running up, kicking it over. I remember him taking swigs from the Jack Daniels bottle. I remember he would smoke and then he would throw his cigarettes down like there's a barricade in front of the stage,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like guys down there like security guards. So there was like a little space between the audience.
A moat. Of space.
There was a moat between the audience and the stage. He would throw his cigarettes down the moat. I remember that. And then one of the things that I thought was the coolest was at the very end of the show, he's like middle stage or whatever. He takes off the 5150 guitar, throws it clear across the stage, and his tech, Zeke, you see an arm pop out and catch it and pull it into the side of the stage.
It's funny you should say that. I witnessed something very similar, but it wasn't Eddie. It was at a Van Halen show, but it wasn't Eddie. It was the opening act on the Van Halen 3 tour. If any of you are familiar with Monster Magnet, that's how I was introduced to the heavy, kind of dark gothic metal band. I don't know if they're gothic metal. They're a fun band called Monster Magnet. And the guitar player or the bass player, Rhythm or somebody, threw their guitar out into the crowd and someone got it. And everyone's like, yeah, it's so awesome, rock and roll. And then a roadie comes out and goes, we're going to need that back. And like the guy was like, no. And they're like, yeah, give it back. And they made him give it back.
Really?
It was so like, oh, that's not very rock and roll at all.
Oh man.
But we'll get to that tour in a little bit. Well, that's a cool memory of that first one. Do you still have that tour book?
No, I sold it. I had that one.
You would never have done that if you could go back and tell yourself now, right? You would never have.
Dude, I sold
that.
everything. I sold everything that I had over the years. I had so many T-shirts. I had so many tour books. I even had the Japanese version of that tour book.
Wow.
Which was basically the same thing, but it was better quality. Like the paper stock was much better than the US one. I had so much stuff. Unfortunately, had to get rid of.
We all have those times in our. Things get hard.
Had
You got to
to.
sell your best stuff.
Had to. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So
we're a
we'll
couple
go
tours away from my first show, but let's talk about what happened in the ensuing years of 1991 and 92, which is the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge Tour, or FUC. There's a way to make an acronym out of that. And after 3 years, increasingly diverse and pop-friendly albums, Van Halen made a return to a straight-ahead, guitar-based hard rock on 1991's charmingly titled For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. And I don't know if they're going to mention this, but that was right in the thick of grunge exploding into the mainstream. 89, 90, it was still a little underground. By 90, 91, it was Nirvana was hitting the stage. Their big album came out.
And pop.
And
there was a lot of huge pop artists out there at the same time.
Right. But I think the grunge explosion made them go a little bit more serious than they had been maybe on the last couple albums. Only the surprise hit single Right Now, which used a traditional piano, not keyboards, I believe it was on a grand piano in his home, strayed from this wall of guitars formula. The group's live show changed accordingly, with the keyboards relegated to an offstage role. And over 20 years into their worldwide touring career, Van Halen was still anything but a nostalgia act, as they put 6 songs from their new album into the set, cutting back a couple from each of the last 2 albums, 5150 and OU812. Otherwise, the set list followed the same basic shape as their previous 2 tours with Hagar: 3 from his solo songs and 3 from the Roth era days. This was the first Van Halen tour to be chronicled on an honest-to-goodness live album, the 1993 double record set Live Right Here, Right Now. I have a vinyl of it over there. I think you have a couple of them too. A full-length home video was released. I bought it on cassette and then on DVD later on of that same show. And it varied a little bit from the album. The live album featured a whopping 24 tracks, including all but one For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge song and a cover of The Who's Won't Get Fooled Again. So what kind of a set list were we looking at in the 91-92 era?
Pound Cake, Judgment Day, Run Around.
Pound Cake was the greatest opening because you had the drill.
Mm-hmm. That's like the first 3 songs from that record, too.
Yeah.
Pound Cake, Judgment Day, Run Around, When It's Love, There's Only One Way to Rock. Bass solo, which we were talking about earlier, now includes Sunday Afternoon in the Park. Pleasure Dome.
Which they turned into an instrumental. It was part of the bass solo, drum solo. It kind of worked its way in between those.
Mm-hmm. Drum solo, All Fired Up, Panama, Why Can't This Be Love? Finish What You Started. Eagles Fly, guitar solo, You Really Got Me, I Can't Drive 55, Best of Both Worlds, The Dream Is Over, Jump, and Top of the World. But also, You Really Got Me, I think also included Cabo Wabo.
Right. On the live album, they do an interlude of Cabo Wabo and then come back to finish You Really Got Me in the middle of like the breakdown from You Really Got Me.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're playing off of just almost entirely Sammy era stuff, except for 3 songs, and including 2 songs from Sammy's solo work. And the entire concert can be watched here, remastered audio file, link in description. I might have to look into that. I wonder if the remastered audio file sounds any better, because the live album to me always had this. It was almost like one person in the crowd was making this one particular high-pitched cheer, and it drove me nuts. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's a loop.
It's a loop of that voice.
It's not real, because
woo, and it's just the same tone.
They went into the studio and they totally re-recorded the whole thing.
Yeah. So this is a faux live album.
So it's a loop of an audience. And one thing, something I remember was in 1992, summer of 92, there was like a live from Cabo Wabo radio special
Hmm.
where they played a bunch of like raw live Van Halen stuff. It was this, but it was before it was like really
Torn
produced.
apart and yeah.
You know,
Yeah, this
It
is
actually
a little
sound-
too perfect for a live album.
it actually
in a way.
sounded much better than how it eventually go on to
Oh, I'd love to
sound.
hear that.
Right? It's out there. You can find it on.
But what I would do as a video editor is I'd take all the footage from the live video and I would put that old audio back onto it because I want to hear the things that Eddie was such a perfectionist in so many ways that it caused him to not release an album for 20 years, which was almost 20 years. But it was he saw imperfections in this live recording and he wanted to fix them. And when he did that, he's like, well, now this doesn't match with that. And now he's got to go back and do the whole damn song again. So yeah, pretty much all of Eddie is re-recorded as far as I know. Would the other instruments also everything?
Everything was totally
Even
redone.
Sammy's vocals?
I have.
That's not a live album.
Can I find it? I have a couple tracks from Right Here, Right Now. Supposedly they were taken from a DAT tape that belonged to Andy Johns, the producer.
You send me that stuff, I'm gonna make a cool video for you.
And I gotta find it.
Because they did keep the stuff of Sammy like talking to the crowd, shouting certain things out because that it matches perfectly with what he's doing on stage. But
I think it's all redone.
You think he even like dubbed all that?
They stood in front of the video and they all totally
God.
redubbed everything. From what I what I believe.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Who does that? I don't know why Van Halen did that. They hold up just fine, but somebody told him we got to redo it because it's a home video or something. But I honestly think this video is some of the best looking Van Halen footage ever recorded. It's pro shot. I don't know if it was considered high. We didn't have high def cameras back then. So when it says Right Here, Right Now concert HD, just means they bumped up they zoomed in on a small image so it would fit your 1080 screen, but it's not actually HD. And then they put out that record and did a tour for that instead of an album tour. So the 1993 was the Right Here, Right Now tour. And on the first ever tour in support of a live album instead of a new studio effort, Van Halen didn't have any new material to freshen up the set list. So they switched things around using their back catalog, bringing back songs that they had dropped from the show in recent years, which must have been fun, and giving Right Now, which was only played 35 times on their last tour, a full-time slot. Hagar's I Can't Drive 55 and Eagles Fly were dropped from the set list in favor of another I Never Said Goodbye song, Give to Live. That's the one I could kind of do without. He also went, well, in fact,
what do you think about that one, Holly?
Holly, let's talk about that one. We'll talk about that. Holly and I could talk about that for days. He also went deeper into the Roth era catalog and brought Jump and Unchained on it. I've never heard Sammy sing Unchained. Is that out there on video somewhere?
Yeah.
That's not on the Dallas show, is it?
No, because the Dallas show was before that. They brought back Unchained for the 93 tour.
Wow.
Which was the tour for the 91 live record. Right. Which really came out in 92. But was recorded from a 91 tour. See, that's why it's weird. Show. That's why it's like 3 years of like the same, but different.
Same stuff. And mixing it up a little bit. But most nights the group closed out the show with a cover of Neil Young's instant classic, Rockin' in the Free World. Which I think I've heard that. The best cover of it, though, as a huge diehard Van Halen fan, I still got to say Pearl Jam did the best cover of that live. That made it their own. So here's what the set list, here's how it changed. Go ahead and tell them all about this stuff.
Typical Right Here, Right Now set list. Mine, All Mine. Excellent version of that song on that tour, man.
We'll get to it. Don't let me forget. Holly said she just recently heard Sammy singing Unchained. So, Holly, you got to tell me where you saw that or send me a link.
Oh, any bootleg from that tour.
Oh, okay. But if she found it on YouTube or something, I'd love. Yeah. Oh, she says, "Oh God, Give to Live." Yeah, we can discuss that one.
But this tour, this was generally, I think it was pretty much all outdoors.
Mm,
It was summer,
summertime, yeah.
so it was a great. I saw this tour at Shoreline
Nice.
like 2 nights in a row.
My home venue, my favorite venue.
Dude, wish you could have been there, man, to see Van Halen at Shoreline.
I was a couple years shy of that one. And
Mine
that's
on
in
mine.
fact that I wish that this tour had been my first one. This was kind of my, after watching the Right Here Right Now video, I always wanted this to be the one I got to see.
Mm-hmm. But hey, mine on mine, Pound Cake, Judgment Day, Why Can't This Be Love, Run Around, Panama, Michael Anthony's bass solo, Pleasure Dome, drum solo, Dreams, which again they had re-released Dreams as a single
In that era, in the early 90s, because the band was turning what, 25 years old? Or no, 15, only 15 years old.
15.
And they did a video of Sammy singing Dreams with the band live at the Whiskey A Go Go, and there is a live video of that. But again, was that all re-recorded after the fact?
I think it was. I think it was. Although they did play it. If you can get the bootleg from that show, you do hear the song being played like a couple times. So they did play it.
Well, I think that is at least for camera. That it's good to get a few takes for camera.
Yeah.
And then you can dub over whatever you want after it's edited together.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Dreams, Right Now, Finish What You Started, Top of the World, Give to Live, Best of Both Worlds, Eagles Fly, There's Only One Way to Rock, guitar solo, Unchained. That was a surprise when they busted into Unchained. Everybody was like, oh, because again, this was kind of before the internet, so you didn't really know. And
before Setlist FM, yeah.
Before Setlist FM, not sponsored, unless they're watching. And when they
do a sponsorship,
when they busted into Unchained,
yeah,
it was like, oh my gosh, it was. I mean,
that's the
incredible.
first time they had played that since '84.
Yes.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
Yeah. So and then Ain't Talking About Love, Jump, You Really Got Me, and Rockin' in the Free World, which I believe that's where Edward kind of got the opening riff for Don't Tell Me.
Oh yeah,
because if you listen to the he's kind of doing the same technique, sort of. That's what I thought of way back then when I heard that.
Holly says they played Unchained the fastest ever at Donington. Yeah, they were into playing really fast in those days. Maybe they had to cram.
Was pretty quick.
Yeah. Sammy sang it, but we couldn't hear him because we sang it along. Yeah, says Ogre, so he saw it too. Tap. Is this thing on? Yes, Steve, we see you.
Hello, Steve.
Yeah, so again, this is a slightly mixed up, but again, one song from Van Halen, one song from Fair Warning, two songs from 1984. All the rest is all Sammy stuff, including two Sammy songs. Now, we're going to get into the tour that I saw them on first, and I have some things to say. They only played, I think, on the live album, Right Here, Right Now, and on the Balance tour, Give to Live and Eagles Fly were the two Sammy solo songs they played. So I have some opinions about those. But here's Middletown, New York in 1993. And then didn't you also see them in 94 at Shoreline for a different special event where it was just Sammy and Eddie?
No, that was actually 90. That was 93. That was a bridge benefit. That was a Neil Young bridge benefit.
Speaking of Neil Young, yeah.
I did not see that. If I would have known about it, I would have definitely been there. No, but here's what's funny. The night, nobody even knows this but me. The night Sammy and Edward appeared at the bridge benefit, and you guys all know that footage.
The bridge school.
The bridge school benefit, which was which was his benefit for a school that I guess Neil Young, he had a kid that went there.
They raised a ton of money every year for many years. That school. It was a music school, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to look.
I went to the one in '97.
Oh, cool.
I was
they did it
there.
They did it for many years, and then it just stopped.
I went to that one. If I would have known about the one from '93 with Edward and Sammy, I would have gone. But what's funny is I was at home watching TV that night because the episode of this Valerie Bertinelli show called Cafe Americain aired that night, and Edward was in the opening scene of that show.
And
he played a street musician. No, that's a different one.
Oh,
that was a show called Sydney that aired on CBS.
Sydney. Yeah, I was trying to think of who it was. It was a woman's name, but I couldn't remember. Yeah. So finish what you started. The instrumental guitar part, basically, without Sammy singing, was the right. There was no vocal.
No, it was the actual song. It was the actual tune.
The full song. Okay, I thought they just played the riff.
No, but at the end, it actually has like a fake or newer ending, like the last dang isn't Van Halen. It's like somebody else.
A studio
music cue put that in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was at home watching Cafe Americain with Edward playing a street musician playing his guitar,
Well, he's like in the cafe, right? And he's playing and ignoring her. Yeah. She comes and says, hello, I'm talking to you. Turns around, it's Eddie Van Halen, and the crowd, the in-studio crowd, the applause cheer sign goes on, and they all go, woo! Because everyone knows he's married to her.
I have this somewhere. There was actually an Entertainment Tonight segment on that whole thing. So you got like a whole segment on that entire thing where they showed all the outtakes and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That was cool. So anyway, so I was at home watching that. And then once that was over, the local, remember Cron News?
Yeah, well, it's still Cron News.
See, that's the cool thing about doing this show with Mr. Mike is we're local, so everything I say, he knows. So anyway, so Channel 4, which is the NBC affiliate, comes up, and they're like, tonight, Bridge Benefit, and they show footage of Eddie and Sammy, and I'm just like, no! I could have been there if I would have known. Dang it.
Were they on the bill, or was it a surprise appearance, maybe?
I think Sammy was on the bill. Edward may have been in the surprise.
Oh, because Sammy's a northern Bay Area guy, North Bay.
Oh yeah,
native, and still has a home up there. But he never moved away from there. He just bought another house in L.A. to be in Van Halen. But he was always
Malibu, right?
He always kept a home up here and considered himself a Bay Area guy. So when the Bridge School, which is a Bay Area school of some sort, approached him, probably because he's a Bay Area staple, Eddie probably went, hey, I'll go. And I think they did acoustic, or was it acoustic and piano?
Edward played a guitar that's called a Parker Fly, where it's an electric guitar, but it has is it piezo? We talked about this the other day. Thank you again, Bay Area Rich. Bay Area Rich gifted me a guitar last week, and it has a similar technology in it.
Oh, okay.
There's a pickup right in here.
Oh, look at that.
This is called an Acoustasonic.
Right. So to me, I just called that an acoustic.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, it's designed like an acoustic guitar or a semi-hollow body or whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, Edward, I'll give you guys a quick screenshot. Eddie Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, Bridge Benefit.
Bridge School, yeah. Bridge School Benefit.
The thing is, I saw the whole thing because I got it on VHS tape like a couple years later. The whole show. Because, at Shoreline, they had the big screens. Somebody filmed the entire thing. So
in
I got to
94, 93?
Yeah.
Is it a bootleg, like someone on the lawn filming?
Yeah.
Wow.
I have it.
That could not have looked great.
No, it looked terrible. It looks awful. I have it.
It looked like the Once music video, I'm sure.
But that photo right there with Edward playing the piano, Sammy singing, they did Love Walks In, they did Right Now, and then Edward with the Parker Fly, they did Best of Both Worlds, and he did Spanish
Acoustic,
Fly.
Yeah. Oh, and Spanish Fly in there. Very cool.
Yeah. And also, Edward came out with Simon and Garfunkel. They did a version of what's their big hit?
Bridge Over Troubled Waters, or
Silence.
Hello, Silence, My Old Friend. Yeah.
Yeah. They do that song.
That's not the name of the song, but yeah.
And Sounds of Silence, I think. Edward does a guitar solo during that.
Really?
And yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people they complain about it. I mean, he improvised it, and just think about it's Eddie Van Halen improvising on an acoustic sounding guitar
on a song that's not his kind of song. He didn't write it. Yeah.
So, I never had a problem with it, but if you go look at the comments, you'll see a lot of people complained about it.
I'll have to find that.
And then also they play "Rockin' in the Free World," and I think Edward jams on that too. I think that's like the last song they do. I have the whole show on a VHS tape somewhere.
You want me to digitize it and put it on?
If I can find it, I'll give it to you, and you can digitize it. That'd be great. Yeah.
Well, how about we tell them about the next tour that came along?
Okay.
This was
I got to take a break.
I'll cover you.
You cover me. Okay.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Mr. Mike Show. By the way, in the chat, does anyone even get the reference I made? My AKA underneath my name here. I'm gonna have to see if anyone gets it. But what happened next was the Balance Tour. I saw them in 1995, October 13th at the Shoreline Amphitheater. It's my first Van Halen show. So here's what happened. Van Halen ran into some stormy seas on their fourth and final studio album with Sammy Hagar. Personality conflicts and the arrival of grunge weighed heavily. It's not even the arrival. It was the rise and fall of grunge before 1995, which weighed heavily on the disjointed Balance album, which nonetheless roared to the top of the charts. Now, I feel like Ultimate Classic Rock is kind of ripping into them. Nope, it's not Dead or Alive. See if you can. It's a movie quote, by the way. I loved Balance. That was the first new album that came out around the time that it had come out just before I'd become a fan. So it was the album. Oh, you can't read it. It's too small. It says Mr. Mike 5150, aka Deputy Van Halen, down at the station. So tell me if anybody knows that one. Now, with Eddie Van Halen dealing with a hip injury and his drumming brother Alex in a neck brace, the group's show in support of the album became known as the Ambulance Tour instead of the Balance Tour. And there was more variety in set lists than on previous tours, although it's not listed in the average set list below. There's Only One Way to Rock was played at about 2/3 of the shows, and Balance's lead single, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, was played at about half. And you can see the full tour stats here. There's a link for that. Bill and Ted. That's right, MPN. Nope, not Back to the Future 3. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Bill calls the local police station and says, "Is this Sheriff Logan? This is Deputy Van Halen down at the station." Oh, he calls someone's home. He says, "You forgot your keys. If you want them, better come and get them," to get the guy to leave the house. So anyway, watch that as a little Van Halen reference. I always loved that. As had become the tradition, 6 songs from the New Balance album worked their way into the set list, edging out everything from OU812 and all but the biggest hits from 5150. That was not true in the case of the show I went to, but I'll get into that. 2 August 1995 shows from Toronto were filmed and released via pay-per-view in December of that same year. In between the show and the show they're talking about and the airing of the show is when I got to see them in October. Although the show had yet to be made legally available on home video yet. So that's at the Molson Amphitheater in Toronto. If you guys look that one up online from the Balance World Tour, it's also great. I just wish we could get a great copy of that one and, a cleaned up audio of that one. But this was my first show. I got to see him in October of 1995, and they did not open with The Seventh Seal. And I don't even know that they played Big Fat Money. They opened with Right Now. So I was on I saw them on the second leg of their tour in fall. And they did play, despite what it says here, they did play Mine All Mine from OU812. But this is the typical Balance tour set list, Johnny. Go ahead and tell them about it.
Balance, you guys. And then after this, I'll tell you my experience of this, because I saw them 3 times.
On this tour, you saw them 3 times. Wow.
Yep. Seventh Seal, Big Fat Money, Run Around, Top of the World, Amsterdam, bass solo, Aftershock, Why Can't This Be Love, drum solo, Can't Stop Loving You, Feelin', Ain't Talking About Love, Right Now, You Really Got Me, Eagles Fly, guitar solo. Yeah. Guitar solo. This seems like more songs. Guitar solo, Jump, Dreams, and Panama.
So that's 19 songs, but I think on the 93 tour, it was up to like 21 songs. So I think they played a few more back then. I don't know. Again, it depends on the show you see. I'm going to say I loved Eagles Fly because as someone who was new to Van Halen and Van Hagar, I didn't know that. And I'm like, what album is this on? I've done my homework. I bought all the albums. I don't know this one. And the reason I liked this one, if you watch that Molson Amphitheater show in Toronto, the way that it starts out with Sammy just on acoustic. Spotlight, he's on a stool. It's just him. He gets into the song and oh, there it is. And then several
Sounds for Holly.
Right. Several. It was a couple, he gets into a couple verses, and then on the last chorus where eagles fly, the curtains opened up or the lights exploded on, and the whole band is there playing. And I wasn't expecting that. And then Eddie does a guitar solo on it that I just thought it's emulating most of what Sammy did on the album, but it's better. I just loved his guitar solo on it. You like those two chords? Okay, Holly's coming around. Worst droning melody ever. Rhyme scheme is off. Worst song ever. Holly says it's the worst song ever. Oh my gosh, Overlord. Okay, but that's the thing. Everybody likes different things. You guys are right. I'm right. Everybody's right. You can't be wrong when it comes to your taste in music. So that's the worst song ever for Holly Lewis. I'm so sorry. Give to Live might be worse. Yes, that's where I'm at. Like, you know what? Give to Live is really the worst one for me. I feel like that's the droning one. But anyway, that's why I love that one. Watch the Molson Amphitheater and the way that the band explodes onto the stage for that one was very theatrical for me. So I like that. And then there you go. So 6 songs off the new album, 3 songs off the previous album. It says nothing from OU812, but again, I saw the tour. They played Mine All Mine. It was like the first song after the.
They did play Mine All Mine.
Yeah. So I guess I saw an atypical show because this is the typical balanced tour set list. And then
that's the typical first leg of it.
Right. I think
you're talking the second leg, but they did play it on the second leg too.
So on the first leg, it doesn't say that they played anything from OU812. So I'm saying on the second leg where I saw them, I did see
when they opened with Right Now.
And I should tell you, yes, they opened with Right Now, which was super cool because I knew that the Seventh Seal was going to be a great opener. I was hoping they would open with that. They did play it later in the night, but for this tour, for this part of the tour, stage was black when they came out, and just little pinpoints of light were all over the curtain, and matched to each of the little piano notes, and all these little white lights were sparkling, like flashing like little stars. This was Shoreline. You were there.
I was there.
I was there. Say it.
I was there, man.
So, but were you in the seats? I was on the lawn.
I would have had seats then.
Okay. Yeah. I was still
not great seats.
But I was on the lawn and I was pressed right up against the front of that thing at Shoreline. I wanted to be as close as I could. But here's a clip from that Toronto video. So if you guys get a chance, check that out. Eddie had cut his hair. He had the either the work shirts that said each of their names on them. Remember those? I
had one. Yeah.
You got one of those? Which name did you get?
I did.
I thought I should get Mike. The Eddie one sold out. They had one for each band member, but I'm like, you did make sure you supplied yourself with 1,000 more versions of the Eddie shirt than anyone else, right? Nobody was getting a Sammy or an Alex shirt.
Let me tell you though, my because I was there. Mm-hmm. I was at the balance. I'm thinking I saw them 3 times.
Yeah. Where else
tour.
did you
I
see
did.
them? You probably
I
saw them
saw-
in the first leg.
I saw them San Jose.
So the arena part. They did an arena tour and then they did an amphitheater tour.
I saw them San Jose. I saw them Oakland. And then that was the Oakland. That was the Oakland show where Edward was actually detained at the airport
For the
coming up here
marijuana.
because he had a loaded gun in his bag that he
Who
forgot
is he?
to take
Jose
out.
Canseco? Man.
That he forgot to take out. So the Oakland show, when you got there, again, there was no internet then. So you get there and they're turning everybody away saying, hey, there's an illness in the band.
Wow.
And then it came out in the paper that week that Edward was detained at the airport on his way up here.
Yeah,
I have the
Eddie,
newspaper clipping. I have it.
Man, he was starting to go through some
So-
tough times right around then.
So, but a couple cool things. You were talking about that Molson Amphitheater show. I remember walking down to the Cablevision to rent the box to watch that.
Oh my God.
So
You had to, Cablevision was a cable store, cable company.
yeah,
I don't even remember that.
This was an El Cerrito.
And you'd have to go down and rent a cable box
Yeah.
in order to order the pay-per-view to get to your television so you could record it on VHS.
So you could watch that and record it. So the cool thing about that show was, it played, back then the pay-per-view would play at certain times. But in between shows, they would show
it wasn't
commercials.
just once?
No, it played.
I thought it was we're showing it one time, kind of like WrestleMania was at one time and that's it.
I know I saw it at least twice.
So you probably paid per each view.
I think you just paid for the box for the weekend or something.
Oh, maybe.
But I do remember renting the box, hooking it up to my TV that was this big. I had a tiny TV set.
Yeah.
I remember watching it, recording it, and then they would have
But as
commercials.
long as you sat like this close to it, it seemed like a big screen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Got
and then
radiation burns.
there was also commercials that advertised it on this thing with different footage of the band, saying, hey, we're doing this, make sure you check it out. And then I want to say, like, I don't remember the days, but the last day, maybe the last showing of that was done in the evening. And they actually, it synced up with a radio special, which was live from 5150 with Alex and Edward.
Huh.
And so they were watching this along with everybody else while they were on the radio. They broadcast the audio for this on the radio. That's where the stereo version bootleg of this comes from, is from that radio broadcast.
Really?
Yeah. I have it on a cassette tape. I taped it. I have it somewhere. But what's cool is in between songs or during songs, Edward and Alex are talking like over the radio, like, oh, yeah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah,
Probably
whatever.
in the microphones to each other. He's in the drum room and Eddie's out here, so that it's all going
Probably,
through the
yeah.
sound. It's all going through the mics and into the sound system.
Yeah. Yeah. And Holly, yeah, this was, I mean, if you think I'm a Van Halen nut now, I
mellowed out.
I've totally, to do this show, I'm totally mellowed out. No, back in the 90s, I would say I was the biggest Van Halen fan ever. Some people disagree, but I was such a fan then. I mean, I bought everything you could imagine. Van Halen was everything to me.
Everything in the world.
That's
Yep.
why I know all this stuff. That's why I do these shows.
I'm the same.
Is because I
I'm
know
the same.
it.
I came in so much later, but speaking of photographic memories, you brought this up before, and I just realized the date today. Dave left Van Halen, and it was announced on April Fool's Day of 1985. That was 40 years ago today.
Supposedly. Yeah.
Well, that was when
something
it was
like that.
announced,
Let's
and that's why some people didn't believe it, right?
Oh no! Are we crashing?
No, I'm hearing you stuttering.
I know. Okay.
Is it me or you or both?
Oh no! I said
I'm
the word
seeing it on my
Gemini.
TV.
I said the
My
word
TV
Gemini,
shows-
and the internet starts crashing. All right.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
Sorry, Gemini. I didn't mean it.
I'm watching YouTube and I'm coming through clear. Yours is getting frozen, so I don't know
Yeah,
what's going on.
I know.
But anyway, yeah, I think that the announcement came out 40 years ago today, which is kind of crazy that we're doing this.
Some sort of something. Yeah, that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, good, cool and sad. I mean, who knows what it would have been like if he'd never left, but what happened, and today was a big day 40 years ago for Van Halen fans. But here, why don't we dive back in since we're running pretty late here. This is the second time I got to see Van Halen, and you did not because you were busy doing other things, I think.
I was actually on tour myself that year, so I
there you
didn't
go.
get
You
to
didn't
see this.
You didn't run into them on the road?
No, I didn't, but I do remember when I was working with Desmond, the band ended up breaking up, the band that we were working with them.
Oh, okay.
I remember, oh my gosh, the day after the band breaks up, this band that I was in, I get a call from the singer of the band that I was in. And he's like, Johnny, guess what? Last night we went out and we ran into Sammy Hagar.
Which
and I'm like, no.
He was on tour for the Marching to Mars album that he did. It was his first solo album after leaving Van Halen.
I was there too. I saw him at Concord for Marching to Mars. But what happened was the engineers, hopefully you guys can still see us because our internet's crapping out.
Yeah, they can. I'm looking at it on my TV.
One of the engineers that I was working with at Desmond's house, his name was Charles Dye. He actually was working on a couple songs for Sammy's record called, is there a Red Voodoo?
Right, that was the next one. Yeah, I think that was the next one.
So I remember we were showcasing, we were playing gigs in like Fort Lauderdale, and Charles came to one of those shows, and he tells me, he's like, Johnny, guess what? I'm working on a couple Sammy Hagar songs down at the studio. So I got to hear the songs, but there was no vocal. It was just the music.
Oh, cool.
So I got to hear that stuff.
Okay, and so Sammy went out right after he left Van Halen or got kicked out or whatever, and made one album. Van Halen had to sit around and go, what do we do now? And they got Gary Cherone, as we all know, had a new album. People don't love to remember it. But as this article says, for the second, but certainly not last time in their career, Van Halen parted ways with another lead singer after the Balance tour, replacing Hagar. And they're talking about, it wasn't just the tour. They also did a music video for the Twister soundtrack. Replacing Hagar with longtime Extreme vocalist, not meaning that he was a vocalist to an extreme degree. The band was called Extreme. Gary Cherone.
The loudest singer ever.
He was the extreme vocalist. So this was on the much maligned 1998 album Van Halen 3. However, you feel about the record, Cherone's arrival gave Van Halen a singer who was eager to tackle songs from both previous eras of the band's career. It's true, he did not have an ego about, he was a fan of both David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar eras. He loved all the music and
oh no,
lost my camera. Yep, I'm back. And he was like, I'll sing whatever, man. So he was able to tackle all those songs from both previous eras. And so in addition to the 5 songs they played from Van Halen 3 on an average night, the group also dug out long-lost Roth-era gems such as Mean Street and Dance the Night Away. And the biggest hits of Hagar's years were also included. And in an odd footnote, Cherone, not Hagar, became the first to sing Humans Being from the Twister soundtrack live with the group. I kind of forgot about that. It's true. It wasn't really his thing, but he hit the range. It just didn't have the energy of Sammy on it, since it had come out before the Balance tour. So nobody got to see Sammy sing that for at least a little while. Michael Anthony also got a new way to shine on this tour, replacing his normal bass solo spotlight by taking lead vocals for Van Halen 2's Somebody Get Me a Doctor. And it wasn't the last time he would go on to do that. The band's April 20th show in Sydney, Australia was professionally filmed and aired live on MTV. That was the Live on the 10 Spot episode. That was a show that they used to feature live concerts, and I wish We were still in that era. So if there's ever a Van Halen 3 box set, there will not be. Maybe that will be included. Sharon was dismissed from the band after a brief attempt to record a second album together, and none of the Van Halen 3 songs have ever graced a Van Halen set list again, except in my fantasy, farewell tour show. So the typical Van Halen 3 tour set list. Go ahead and tell us about this one.
Unchained, Without You, One I Want, Mean Street, When It's Love, Fire in the Hole, Why Can't This Be Love, Romeo Delight, Drum Solo, Dance the Night Away, Humans Being, Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Year to the Day, Guitar Solo, Right Now, Ain't Talking About Love, Josephina, Panama, and Jump.
Yep. So they only did 5 songs off the new album, which doesn't make it sound like they were totally confident with that album's performance. But I gotta say, the Year to the Day and then Eddie's guitar solo was kind of the highlight of that show. It got moody and bluesy and dark, and sometimes, that's a long guitar solo on Year to the Day. And I think they're saying it this way, but it went into the guitar solo of Year to the Day, and then he did his entire guitar solo, and then they came back to end the song Year to the Day. So it's like a 15-minute song, and it just was so. I think it's like 7 minutes on the album, Year to the Day. But it's
a long song on the album,
right?
And then live, that had to be at least 20 minutes.
I think it was 15 to 20 minutes, and it was just like, that was amazing. Like at the end of that, you go, what did I just see? This is a third lead singer. There's no way these guys should be, performing this well this far into their career. And it went over so many people's heads. People didn't want to go to this show. People didn't like the album. I'm telling you, they missed out. Eddie was sounding so good. And that song is such a bizarre non-Van Halen song, but featured Eddie doing some amazing things you never really saw him doing. I didn't love Josephina. Hearing Humans Being live from the wrong guy was a little weird. It was definitely cool to hear the instrumental part of that, but it was like, oh, that's the wrong guy. Everything else was fine, was fun, and Unchained was phenomenal, and Mean Street were phenomenal. Those are on the Live at the 10 spot. Watch him do those. I went, man, I'm happy to have Gary Sharon. After seeing him do those, I was all in for this guy. I'm like, bring him on. The recording of Van Halen 3 didn't sound all that great to me, and generally speaking, but he's so good live. And watch him do those songs was so much. And he's about 10 years younger than everyone else in the band, I think. So he had a great energy on stage. You can watch this as the Live in Sydney show. I'm not going to play it. And then we had to wait 6 years more before a 2004 reunion tour with Sammy, and you got to see them on this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we were again at the same shows. I only saw them twice on this tour. What about you?
I only saw them once.
Oh, okay.
I saw them San Jose.
I think I saw them San Jose and then Oakland. I can't remember which one came first, but I saw them at both of those.
San Jose was first. Oakland was second. I didn't go to Oakland. I wish I would have, but unfortunately I couldn't.
I think Oakland was the better show. I think Eddie had a bad drunken night. I hate to say it. He barely got through some of those songs. But he was better the next time I saw them. And you could tell he felt a sense of relief at the end of his solo. But anyway, I'll read through this because we're still probably trying to wrap it up shortly. We only got a couple tours left here, folks. Did you ever get back together with your ex and then quickly remember why you broke up? That seems to be what happened on Van Halen's summer tour in 2024, as Hagar returned to a tour that was plagued by personal disputes and Van Halen's substance abuse battle. The tour featured the heaviest dose of Roth-era Van Halen of any Hagar-fronted tour, with the once banished Jump now serving as each night's opening track. I kind of like that idea. Get it out of the way. Michael Anthony stayed on his doctor duties, meaning he sang Somebody Get Me a Doctor each of those nights, while most of Hagar's solo songs were performed during his nightly solo acoustic segment, not in a guitar duel with Eddie anymore. They still weren't getting along great. Oh yeah, and they also played all 3 songs from the new Best of Both Worlds compilation album, which frankly are best forgotten. Yes, but I will say I really liked 1 or 2 of them. Even live, I thought those were pretty fun. After the tour closing, November 19th, 2004 marked several important and somewhat sad milestones. It was the last time Hagar would ever sing with the group, and the last time they performed any songs from his era live, and also the last time bassist Michael Anthony would ever play live with the band. That's agonizing, but it's true. It's part of the history. So let's check out what they played.
Mm-hmm. Typical summer 2004 set list: Jump, Run Around, Humans Being, Up for Breakfast,
I liked it.
Bass solo, Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Pound Cake, It's About Time.
I liked that one too.
Drum solo, Top of the World, Unchained, Why Can't This Be Love, Eagles Fly, Deeper Kind of Love,
Yeah.
Seventh Seal. Holly, what do you think about that song?
Deeper Kind of Love. That one's forgettable too, I think.
Best of Both Worlds, Guitar Solo, Dreams, Ain't Talking About Love, Right Now, You Really Got Me, Panama, When It's Love.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird song to end on, but not crazy. So I didn't catch it here, but they didn't. Oh, they did play Humans Being. So we did get to see Sammy eventually sing Humans Being, and that was fun that it was kind of near the top of the show.
What was the closer song for the Best of All Worlds tour?
Jump. Right? No. I'm sorry. The Best of All Worlds tour? What one was that? Was it not Jump? No, because they did play Jump throughout in the evening. What was it?
When It's Love.
Oh, it was.
The Sammy Hagar tour.
Right.
Best of All Worlds. Because I remember walking.
Sammy played Jump on his own tour.
I remember walking through the LA Forum. I have the footage still. During When It's Love, I filmed walking through the entire thing. So
Holly does like Seventh Seal and Humans Being. And Overlord is mentioning that Hagar didn't really help, even though Sammy was. I think I get what you're saying is that Eddie was going through substance abuse problems, but Sammy just wanted to promote his tequila and tried everything he could to get around his agreement with the Van Halen brothers. He did. He wanted to quit halfway through the tour, and the promoters wouldn't let him. They said, "No, you're sticking to your contract, or we're going to charge you millions of dollars." So yeah, he couldn't get out of it. That was a bittersweet tour because we still got to see some Van Halen, but it was just plagued by problems, and it was a messy time. And even if you go and listen to those 3 new songs off the greatest hits albums, the double album, Best of Both Worlds, they are Van Halen, but not. I don't know. What would you say? Are they kind of muddled in their composition for a Van Halen song?
I mean, there were 3 new tracks, but they were already done. I don't think Michael Anthony played on them. I think Edward played bass on them.
Right. And then Sammy just had to put lyrics to them.
Sammy did lyrics. I think Glenn Ballard had worked with them on that.
I will mention briefly, I do like Up for Breakfast, but it's very juvenile. It's silly. It's all about breakfast foods, which is silly, but it's all metaphorical for euphemisms of some other activity. And
I like breakfast foods, but
I do like breakfast foods, and the song kind of makes me hungry sometimes. But it's a great riff. I do like that song. It's a
song makes you hungry. You hear that and you're like, I could.
He's talking about a lot of really good breakfast foods. But It's About Time was kind of like, it's about time we got back together and got in the studio, and it barely lasted the length of the tour, you know. So it was kind of bittersweet. But if you take, I don't know what it is about his melody over that song, but if you take Sammy's melody off of that song and learn to play what Eddie's playing on there, it's crazy. It's another work of genius technically. I've always thought. And then the melody of the lyrics over it is a little kind of distracts from that, I think. But the other song was not bad. It was just kind of a little forgettable, but it was something. What was the name of that one?
Learning to See.
Learning to See. It's a weird, it gets dark. I actually learned to like it a little more recently. But it's a dark kind of mood. And then, I don't know, it changes moods several times in a weird way. So I can't say I love that one.
The recording of that song, what Edward had said in interviews, Learning to See, he actually took guitars and he laid them down on stools. He would like C-clamp them to stools, and he would tune them all to open chords, and he would strum them. And that's how that was the recording of like those chords on that song.
Da 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 down down like that.
Just the open chords, just like the verses. Supposedly his guitars all got waterlogged in his studio.
Really?
Yeah.
Like it flooded?
Yeah. Yeah. And so he had to dry the guitars out and then C-clamp them to these stools.
And then while he was doing that.
And then play the open.
Yeah.
The open chord like that. So that's why the verses are just open chords.
The guy was
and then you hear a lot of sustaining. There's a lot of sustaining notes, sustaining act notes within those as well.
It didn't, I don't think it performed well live. And if you watch this video, Sammy is kind of out of shape, and Eddie, when his hair is up in a knot, that's when you know he's 7 sheets to the wind, unfortunately. Michael Anthony, bless his heart, gave it everything he had. And Alex sounded great, but they just were not in a good place at that time. Best kind of forgotten, but I got a cool shirt out of it. It's the Van Halen logo on fire. It's the Van Hagar logo, the rings on fire. And on the back, it just says, Van Halen kicks ass. I just love that shirt. It was so simple. So then, did you see them in 2007, 2008? I didn't go to those shows. After 27 years apart, Van Halen reunited with original frontman David Lee Roth for a long-awaited and much-rumored reunion tour. It seems Eddie Van Halen's primary motivation for this tour was a chance to play live with his son Wolfgang, who took over for Michael Anthony on bass. There was also some animosity over Anthony joining Hagar's tours during Van Halen's long stretches of inactivity. I got some thoughts about that I won't get into right now. The foursome didn't record a new album prior to the tour, but that hardly mattered as they had 6 classic albums worth of songs, many of which hadn't been performed live since Roth's departure, not even by Roth. The group played at least 2 songs from each of their Roth era albums, paying attention to at least 2 songs from each of the albums from the Roth era, paying extra attention to their 1978 debut, which dominated the preceding proceedings with 8 tracks, plus Eruption, which had long ago switched from being listed separately on the set lists to being the basis of Eddie's nightly guitar solos. Obviously, all trace of the Hagar years was erased, and Wolfgang had no interest in performing a bass solo, leaving extra room for his father and uncle to show off their individual talents. So here's what you got during that set list. I think I was a little dubious about Dave coming back, so I think I kind of distanced myself at that time. But let's see what you tell me what you liked about this show, and go ahead and read that set list.
Typical 2007-2008 set list. You Really Got Me, I'm the One, Runnin With the Devil, Romeo Delight, Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Beautiful Girls, Dance the Night Away, Atomic Punk, Everybody Wants Some, So This Is Love, Mean Street, Pretty Woman, Drum Solo. Wow, all that before drum solo. Unchained, because on those earlier tours, even with Roth, they would play like 3 songs and go to a drum solo.
Yeah.
Unchained, I'll Wait, And the Cradle Will Rock, Hot for Teacher, Little Dreamer, Little Guitars, Jamie's Crying, Ice Cream Man, Panama, Guitar Solo, Ain't Talking About Love, 1984, Jump, and When It's Love. No, just kidding. I wish.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Look at that. I mean, they're counting it 1984 as a song, but they're playing over 20 songs a night on this tour. I probably should have gone to that. And Dave,
it was a long show.
Yeah. Did they have anyone open for them on that tour?
Yeah.
Who was opening then? Do you remember?
2007?
I can remember who opened for every Van Halen show I went to.
In the chat, who opened on 2007-2008?
Real quick, I'll mention it was Skid Row and Brother Kane were the opening acts at Shoreline in 1995 for the Balance Tour. Monster Magnet in 1998. On the two shows I saw on the 2004 tour, one was called Silvertide, and the other one was called, I still remember the band, I'm just trying to remember the name. Oh, Shinedown. Shinedown's huge now. And it was their first tour. They got to go out with Van Halen. And then this tour, I don't know, but I can tell you on the next tour who showed up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that.
It might have been Bob Marley's kid.
No kidding.
Opened on the 7 or
not
or
Ziggy.
08.
That was his brother, but yeah, I forget his son's name. Interesting.
It might have been Ziggy Marley's kid. I don't think it was Bob Marley's kid. I think it was his grandkid. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Kool and the Gang yet. Not on this tour. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Dave was picking the opening acts, I think. So yeah, they played a few songs, up to 8 songs from the first album. That's pretty cool. That's bringing back the old stuff. And just diving between, Cradle of Rock, Hot for Teacher, then Little Dreamers, then Little Guitars. They were all over the place. And when it's Ice Cream Man, I think they went back to the old thing of Dave coming out with his acoustic. It wasn't his giant ice creamsicle guitar, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But he did come out and do the intro of Ice Cream Man, and then the band would jump in for the whole boogie of it. Yeah, look at that. Both these guys look so much better. Eddie had lost weight and been working out. His son got him back in shape, and I think he looked even better on the next tour. But yeah, he looked so much better during this era. And then we got a new album. Want to hear a wild stat? Van Halen's 2012-2013 tour marked the first time in 18 years that Van Halen began a tour with the same singer who had performed on their last tour. 18 years. This time out, they were promoting their first new studio album in 14 years and the first to feature Roth in 28 years. 4 songs from A Different Kind of Truth made the set list, which I think they picked some of the wrong songs and could have put more on there, including She's the Woman, probably my favorite on that album, which was a reworked track from the band's earliest days. The rest of the show featured the most even distribution of tracks from each of the group's first 6 albums ever, with 1984 and Van Halen getting the first album, getting 4, and every other album except Diver Down getting at least 2. And this was also finally the first Roth era Van Halen tour to be represented with a live album, although Tokyo Dome live in concert doesn't seem to live up to the excitement and excellence most of us heard on that tour, and that is absolutely true from my point of view. Terrible recording. I do enjoy Dave's banter with the crowd on that album, but his voice sounds terrible. And I don't even think the recording of the music was all that great on that album, but it was better than some other ones. So let's see what they played on this one, where Kool and the Gang definitely was the opening act.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll say that most of their shows, like, I wasn't there for the opening acts. Like I
always showed up.
I didn't go in until then.
Yeah, they were fun.
The 2012 tour, I did go in because I did want to see Kool and the Gang.
Yeah, they were great.
I did watch them.
And I think Dave just wanted to kick it off with a party vibe, and it did. It was fun. So what did they play?
See. Unchained.
Boom.
Runnin With the Devil. She's the Woman. Tattoo.
Ugh, not my favorite.
Romeo Delight. Everybody Wants Some. Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Chinatown. Hear About It Later. Now let me tell you one thing about that. Number 9 here.
Yeah.
When they played, somehow, like, I was at the show in Oakland. I saw them San Jose. I saw them 2 or 3 times on 2012.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I saw them in Oakland, it was June 3rd, 2012. I know that because I've got a video sitting here. Here, I'll put that in the chat. When I saw them in Oakland, when they were about to kick into Hear About It Later, I hit record. I filmed it because I knew that was the first time they had played that song live at that venue since that 81 video that you guys own.
Right. That's where they played that show, yeah.
Hear About It Later. So I filmed it. I filmed it, and there's the video right there. You guys can watch.
That's crazy. That had been like 25 years or 30. No, it had been like 35 years.
It was a while. Yeah.
I don't know. It's been like 30 years. It had been a long time.
Yeah.
I'm probably doing the math wrong. Yeah, Hear About It Later is one of those ones that I learned to play early on. At least the riff for it, and it's just such a cool build into a rockin' song. And then what did they play?
So from there, Oh Pretty Woman. And again, there was no intruder.
No.
So this was the era, well, I think 84 too, where they just went right into it. You Really Got Me. Drum solo. See, again, that's a lot of songs before the drum solo. Whereas those first tours.
Well, again, long show.
It's like 2 songs and then the drum solo.
Yeah.
The Trouble with Never.
That song I was like, wasn't my favorite song. I think they could have picked some other songs to play live.
Dance the Night Away. I'll Wait. And The Cradle Will Rock. Hot for Teacher. Women in Love.
Great
Beautiful
song.
Girls. Dude, they dug out everything from Van Halen 2 now again. Huh?
Yeah, they brought it all back after having a whole tour without any songs from Van Halen 2. In 84, right? They basically didn't play it at all.
Yeah. Where are we? Beautiful Girls, Ice Cream Man, Panama, Guitar Solo, Ain't Talking About Love, and Jump.
Now that's where when I heard them start to play Jump, I went, oh, time to get to my car. I've heard Jump about 4.
That's what you said.
I've heard Jump from 3 different singers. I don't need to hear it again. And far be it for me to leave a Van Halen show early, but I was like, you know what? I've heard it. I've heard it enough. But the 4 songs that they played, I loved hearing Chinatown live. I loved hearing She's the Woman live. Now, Tattoo is the reason, although we would have met eventually anyway, is the reason you and I connected in the first place. I will have to tell
because of our matching tattoos.
Right. Which we can't show you on the internet. For those of you who don't know, I made a fan video back in 2012 before the album even came out because they released Tattoo and they released that god-awful music video that I think Wolfie's school friends made on their handy cams, and I thought it was horribly edited and horribly shot. So I made my own fan version of what I wish it had been. You can't find it on YouTube. It got taken down immediately, but you can find it on Vimeo. And all you got to do is search my name, Mike Wood, Tattoo, and you can write Van Halen fan video, and you'll find it. And I got featured on the front page of the Van Halen news desk, and boom, Johnny was all over me just like that. In fact, because you went, hey, you live in this town. I used to live in that town, and I'm only a couple towns away, and we're neighbors. So we started talking right after that in 2012. So I don't love Tattoo. It's not my favorite song, but it was even worse with the bad music video. So I tried to make a better one, and I had ideas for other music videos from that album too, but never made them. But Chinatown was a fun song, and then Trouble with Never, I just could never really get into that song. I wish they had done As Is or Bullet Head. There's some of the new songs that were not even based off of old songs that I thought were really great. Big Trouble turned into a song called Big River. I would have loved to have heard that. I think they could have ended the show with that one.
So So this is a typical set list. They did what's
they changed
one
it up.
song? They did. What was the one with what song is
on
that?
On 2015? You mean? Because they changed the 2015 tour quite a bit.
No, it was at this tour. They did Blood and Fire.
Oh, maybe.
But just like
once
a couple times. Yeah.
That was the other one I wanted to make a video for, because that to me felt like it was a story about Roth's experience being in Van Halen back in the day. I think he was writing about how cool was it that we were on top of the world, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
No Sammy Hagar song, pun intended. And I think I could have done a really cool, like, retrospective kind of nostalgia video of all their early stuff with that. But then they put out a live album and went on tour for that. And this was to be their last tour ever. And it says here, Van Halen. Oh, yeah. So you went to 3 shows on that. You went to Oakland, San Jose, and what was the third one?
2015?
Oh, no. I mean, 2012. I thought you said you went to 3 shows.
2012. I remember Oakland. I remember San Jose.
Maybe you went to one of the 2015 ones too. Because you and I met up
2015,
at one of those.
2015. I saw them
At Shoreline. I met you there.
twice.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
saw
I thought
them
you said
in
3 somewhere. I saw them twice on each tour of the last 2 tours.
if they only played twice on the 07, 08, like if you remember, like
Oh, maybe you said 3 times on that tour. Maybe I'm misremembering what
I
you
saw
said.
them 3 times on Balance.
Oh, very cool.
Oakland, San Jose, Shoreline.
Shoreline.
I do
Very
remember
cool.
that.
Yeah, I wish I'd done that.
Right here, right now, I saw them at least 2 nights in a row
Man,
for that one. They
I hope
played
you
like
still got all
Shoreline,
your
like
ticket
2
stubs
nights
or something.
I do.
Nice. That's at least you
I-
kept that.
I do have those.
So they put out a live album, and then they went on tour again. So it says Van Halen dug deep into their catalog for this 3rd straight tour with Roth, adding a half dozen rarely or even never played songs into their nightly set list. And this includes Van Halen 2's Light Up the Sky as an opener.
Yeah.
And holy crap, was that cool. I remember that and just going, oh my God, I've never heard them play this live. It's one of the coolest early songs. It reminds me about like an alien invasion or something. It sounds like it's something crazy. And it just, yeah, it set the mood so well. While also breaking out 1984's Drop Dead Legs, which they had, never played live?
Correct.
Am I right?
Right.
And Diver Down's Little Guitars and Fair Warning's Dirty Movies. Now, they'd played Little Guitars before, but they had never played Dirty Movies live. The tour concluded with 2 October 2015 shows at the Hollywood Bowl in the band's hometown of Los Angeles. And during the first of them, Roth played an impromptu onstage tribute to Eddie Van Halen, telling him, "The best years of my life, the high points of all my life, on stage with you, homeboy." And it turned out to be a farewell. And while the band had been discussing a kitchen sink tour featuring Roth, Hagar, and Sharon all together, Eddie Van Halen began battling a series of serious health issues in 2019 and died on October 6th, 2020, bringing an end to his namesake band and one of the most impressive touring careers in rock history. So I was there, man. It was an honor to be there for 2 shows for this last tour. Tell them what they played.
Light Up the Sky, Runnin With the Devil, Romeo Delight, Everybody Wants Some, Drop Dead Legs, Feel Your Love Tonight, Somebody Get Me a Doctor, She's the Woman, Chinatown, I'll Wait, Drum Solo.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was like their whole
It
set.
was the 3rd song. Was it?
Yeah.
10 songs, 11 songs, yeah.
Little Guitars, Dance the Night Away, Beautiful Girls, Women in Love, Hot for Teacher, In a Simple Rhyme, Dirty Movies, Ice Cream Man, Unchained, Ain't Talking About Love, Guitar Solo, You Really Got Me, Panama, and Jump.
And, that's the typical set list, but one I remember them playing at one of the shows I was at, I think it was at the Concord Pavilion one, was the Full Bug, which I had never seen them play off of Diver Down.
The thing is, if we saw them like at a later date, they change songs around and they put something else in. Yeah, I think you might be right there, yeah.
To see the Full Bug was really, really cool. I thought that was so much fun.
Or they play them and they take them out. Like that song, Blood and Fire, I think they played early and then they took it out eventually.
Right.
On the previous tour.
So that was a really cool tour. It was the last time I got to see them. But yeah, it would have been cool to do that, to imagine what that kitchen sink show might have been. But I wanted to show you, I don't know if I think I've shown you this before, but I'll show the people if I can bring up the right apps here. So that's, a bunch of songs from a bunch of David Lee Roth stuff. And there is some great video. And Eddie, by the way, looked in perfect health. I don't think I was ever expecting he would be gone within 5 years. But just goes to show, you never know. He just seemed so happy. He had a new set of teeth. He had, put on he wasn't as skinny as he had been before, but he looked healthy he looked exactly as you wanted him to look for his age. And he sounded phenomenal. And he played that White Wolfgang on the whole tour, I think, right? I think he busted out
Mhm.
Frankie once in a while too, but mostly it was this one.
It was a previous tour.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, yeah, and also there was I think starting in 2004 they had done a series of Charvel guitars, and it became EVH guitars where they were all custom painted up, played for a song, and then auctioned off.
Yeah. Raymond says, I know someone who was at that last show. Third row has great photos. Yeah, that's October 4th. So I'm going to see if I can share with you a picture. It's over here on my wall, but it's just too hard to flip the camera around and show you. But no, it won't let me show you. Go ahead and talk for a minute. I'm going to wrap up the show if you want, but I wanted to show you what this picture I have is. I just have to
thank you, channel members. Thank you so much for your continued support for this show, this channel. We do a lot of stuff here. You know, we do a lot of Van Halen. I mean, that's not everything, you know, but definitely do a lot of Van Halen. So if you're brand new, if you're watching this, if you like your Van Halen, exclusively Van Halen, you know, as you can see when we talk about it, we know our Van Halen.
A little bit. Anyway, show them the picture here. I got this lithograph. It's hanging on my wall here. This is the album or the concert artwork from the very last two shows at the Hollywood Bowl. And it's autographed. You can kind of see right at the bottom underneath the words Hollywood Bowl. It's signed by the artist who made it. And I put my little ticket stub in there for my last show. Cool. I love that thing. Basically, that's the back. What do you call that? At the Hollywood Bowl, it's like this seashell shaped.
Well, for acoustics,
right,
like
right.
The back,
it amplifies
the back
everything
of the
out.
venue. Yeah,
yeah, and they put it in all the Van Halen stripes. So that's one of my prized Van Halen possessions. Their very last shows ever. I wish I could have had Eddie's autograph on that or something, but it will never be. But that's one of my favorite things is just remember that, you know, we got to have them probably longer than I don't want to say longer than we deserved, but we deserve some more Van Halen in that hiatus. But to get them again as late as 2012 and 2015 was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to get, you know, what we got. I mean, even, you know, becoming fans later, like I didn't get to see them live till 10 years into their touring, national touring or worldwide touring, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah, same here. It was a little later than that. So yeah. And I got to see him ultimately 7 or 8 times. And, you know, thanks, James. I'm glad to be here. I get to hang out once in a while. It's fun to hang out. I know I'd make the shows go on way too long. I just looked at the clock.
I know. I had said it's 2 hours. Okay,
we'll just do 2 hours. I went. It'll probably go too long.
I know. And my dinner's getting cold. Apparently.
Yes, we all got it. So, I hope you guys all ate while you're watching that.
Hope you guys are full.
Yeah. Bunch of full bugs.
Oh crap. Okay, we do have to run, Mr. Mike. Thank you.
See you
so
next
much,
time,
man.
guys.
I'll see you soon. We'll hang out.
I'm down for it. Oh, we ate one too, Holly. Oh, that's hilarious.
Cool. Thank you. And I'm glad my microphone sounds better too, although it's telling me I'm clipping. But
thank you, Peggy.
You guys rock. Thank you so much. I'm going out of town tomorrow. So
you mean you're coming into town?
Yeah, I'll be in your neck of the woods tomorrow. So no, unless I do like an early show like I did yesterday at Guitar Center, I don't know. But Thursday, I'll probably see you guys with Laz. Friday, talking guitars, music news. Saturday, Saturday night, guitar workbench stuff. Actually, I have you know stuff I'm working on, videos.
But what if they just want to hang out and watch you play video games?
Twitch. I'll be on Twitch tonight.
Probably a little later than usual.
Not a good time for the unboxing. What? Do you want to unbox a little later, Janice? We could go on Twitch. All right. I ate
one too. Good supper.
I ate one too. Good supper. I thought the album was called Oh, I Ate 12.
Still nobody knows exactly what the setup to that punchline is, I think, but
there was, hot dog eating contests back then. Didn't Homer Simpson eat 12 hot dogs?
I think that's normal for him. Yeah. That wasn't like a record or anything. It was a routine.
All right, you guys.
We're gonna start a Simpsons show soon too. I think where we just reminisce about our favorite Simpsons episodes from the 90s.
We should definitely do that.
All right, guys. Good to see you. Good to be seen.
All right. I'll see you later, man.
Bye, guys.
All right, you guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time here on... what channel is this, Dweezil?
Hi, this is Dweezil Zappa, and you're watching Johnny Beane TV. And then I'll give you mine, so come back around this way. Okay, let's go.
All right, Mike. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm Johnny Beane. I met you last year. I talked on Google Plus.
Oh, I remember you. Yeah.
I look like.
All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
All right.
He was at a Google Plus hangout.
I'm Johnny Beane.
Thank you so much, you guys, for watching. Click on another video on the screen here. Drop your comments below. Did you see Van Halen on tour? Let us know down below. And I will see you guys on the next show right here on Johnny Beane TV. Bye-bye.